This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
It's decision time, NASCAR fans. Who gets you the points? Who gets you the wins? Who gets you the bragging rights? Who gets you the championship? Sign up and play today at NASCAR.com/fantasy.
The road to $100,000 goes wide open tonight, where from the virtual Michigan International Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round number 13 of the 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series, where for the second to last time in the regular season, we welcome you into the RaceSpotTV booth tonight on the iRacing Esports Network. As always, it's myself, Evan Pasoko, Tim Terry, and Randy Cheneth upstairs with you. And Tim, it is going to be a fun one this evening. If it is anything like the other 2-mile D-shaped oval we went to earlier this year in Fontana, Michigan should be a barn burner this evening as we get down to the second to last race before we officially find out our 8-car championship field.
Just watching some of the practice sessions here, Evan, it has really brought out some 2 and 3 wide racing. We're getting ready for a barn burner here this evening. You just saw the race in Pocono 2 weeks ago, and it was a wild finish to that one. It shook up the point standings. We'll see the point standings here in a bit. The top 8 or so, as you see on your screen. You include Zach Novak in 9th. We got a fight on our hands. Christian Challoner, Casey Kerwin, everybody below that yellow line is outside of 2 races away. So if you hedge your hand over the panic button, those guys in yellow are definitely hitting it right now with only 2 races to go before that cutoff.
Yeah, the drivers on the bottom right-hand side, Randy, in the red, they are already mathematically eliminated. They cannot qualify for the playoffs. Their focus now goes to just trying to stay in the top 20 to stay in this series. But it is those drivers below the cut line in 8th position in the blue and the yellow that need to be worried tonight, because after this evening, if you do not get within 45 points of the cutoff, you're done. So all those drivers 11th position through 18th are at risk of being mathematically eliminated from the playoffs tonight. It is looking like it may come down to maybe just Zach Novak trying to get in. Of course, that's exciting. 1 point behind Nick Ottinger for the final spot, but Christian Challoner, P10, is going to have to make some noise.
And it's crazy to think with all the speed Zach has had that he's sitting outside of the top 8 at the moment, albeit only 1 point back. And I keep saying it, Nick Ottinger, a driver who has a completely missed race after having to serve a penalty and sit a week out, having himself in the top 8. That 47 car has been consistent absolutely all season, but there's a lot of close people in terms of points that need good races today. Kerwin, Davies, Clampett, Guest, and Nichols. You even put Malik Ray in there. Even Corey Vincent. Only 21 points separates that group, and 22 points you can toss Christian Challoner into that hat as well. Any one of those guys has a good race. We know Malik Ray ran 3rd place out there at Pocono, and of course Casey Kerwin finishing 2nd in that same race. They all have the talent to finish up near the front. If they can pull it off, they might be able to see their name in blue going towards that final race of the regular season at Bristol.
Again, they got to be within 45 points of 8th in the championship if they want to even have a shot at Bristol. And Bristol's going to be an insane race, Tim. So one key thing is lock it up tonight if you're in the blue. And at the top of the championship standings, Ryan Luza and Keegan Leahy, both 61 and then 46 points above the cut line. They could mathematically lock in tonight, which would save them a world of a headache in 2 weeks' time. As you see it there, Bristol coming up in 2 weeks' time on Tuesday, August the 20th. That one will be the elimination race and the cut race to end this regular season. And if you're anywhere close to the cut line, that is going to be a nerve-wracking race knowing how those races can go.
Yeah, you really need to build yourself a gap here this evening, leading into Bristol in a couple of weeks' time. At the end of the day, you can have a little bit of a gap and feel safe. You would need a lot to happen. If you have 40 points or so on that cut line, you would need a lot to happen in order to fall out. There's a lot of bits and pieces that are moving in within that, but Keegan Leahy, Ryan Luza can definitely lock it up and, you know, go for a win at Bristol and put a little bit of that pressure off. But with the race that we saw at Pocono a couple of weeks ago, what we're seeing in practice with 2, 3, and 4 wide racing, one small mistake could put you into that playoff picture or outside where Zach Novak, Christian Chalner, and the rest are sitting. So you really, really need to be on your game here this evening with no mistakes.
And Michigan, of course, Randy, a racetrack that is very familiar to this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing series. It's been on the schedule every single year, although in past seasons the race length has been a little bit longer. Tonight it returns to its original schedule distance as we go racing for 100 laps and 200 miles.
And it's going to be a good one. I mean, it is essentially the 4th plate race that we have on the schedule, because of course with this package we saw at Auto Club, guys are going to be flat out 2, 3, 4 wide. Going to be much the same thing here. Not running to darkness the way we did at Auto Club, but we saw close racing at Daytona, at Dega, at Auto Club as well. Really been, I think, the most exciting finish of the entire championship, and I think we're going to be set up for another one here today as we get ready to grid up all 38 of these drivers and let them loose.
Yeah, Tim mentioned it. The practice session was excited enough. We look forward to seeing what this Michigan 200 has in store. That practice session has, though, drawn to a close, as you said. Let's go trackside. Take a look at our RaceSpotTV starting grid for round number 13. And Keegan Leahy will start this one from pole position. It'll be the G2 Esports entry going off at first spot. And Chris Sherbert representing Letarte Esports will bring the RacingJobs.com Chevy off in P2. Christian Challenger and Brad Davies will make up the second row. It'll be 3rd and 4th position, respectively, for them. And Brian Schoenberg puts the double 5 in P5 on the grid.
And his teammate will start alongside him in Matt Busa in car number 5. Ray Alfala, 2-time winner, only multi-time winner here at Michigan, will roll off in 7th. Jarl Tien in 8th. Bobby Zielinski in 9th. And Jake Nichols, the JGR teammates, roll off in row number 5.
11th spot going to have the 77 of Ashton Crowder with Michael Conti in the 8th, rolling off from 12th. Brandon Hayes-Cattell in 13th. Nick Ottinger coming off that big win in the All-Star race we saw on NBCSN. He's going to roll off 14th with Dylan Duvall rounding out your top 15.
Duvall's going to be joined by Phil Diaz, who will be on the outside of row 8 there. Casey Tucker 17th, and Corey Vincent 18th behind them. And back on row 10, 19th starting spot tonight for Garrett Lowe. Midway through the field, you'll find the 15 car of Michael Guerrilla.
It's a big race for Zach Novak. He rolls off 21st. Kane Cook to his outside. Jimmy Mullis next up on the grid, coming off a big win. Casey Kerwin to his outside, and Logan Kress completes your top 25.
And a lot of names down here that need to have good nights. Blake Reynolds 26th, Ben Nelson 27th, Michael Guest in 28th, Malik Ray in 29th, Taylor Hurst rounds out your top 30, and the rest of the field, Nate Lyon, Chris Overland, Eric Smith, Ryan Luza, Nick Shelton, Ryan Lowe, Timmy Hill, and Adam Benefield.
To look down the bottom at your RaceSpotTV starting grid, let's talk a little bit more about this Michigan International Speedway. As noted, a 2-mile D-shaped oval, similar to the sister track we saw earlier in Fontana, where Eric J. Smith got a thrilling race victory. Banking here, though, 18 degrees at the corners, 12 degrees on the front straightaway, and the daytime conditions compared to that nighttime race earlier this year, I think can also be one of the things that plays a bigger factor as we get set for, as noted, the 13th race of this 2019 campaign, and it is the second to last race of the regular season. Nowhere near in, so you got to get a lot of critical points tonight as the pace car dives down to the safety of the pit lane. As always, we're happy you're spending a Tuesday night with us on RaceSpotTV and the iRacing Esports Network as we say, let's go racing at Michigan. Green flag in the air.
First side-by-side battle is going to be for position number 3. Your top 2 get single file. Brad Davies on the outside trying to clear Chalner down into corner number 1. Won't do it as of yet. The Williams eSport teammates now lining up on the inside behind Chalner. Brian Schoenberg ready to move, trying to make a move to that inside, can't do it, and everybody's going to accordion up together, and here comes Brad Davies on the outside looking for the lead in the 88.
Going to be nearly impossible for the race leaders to pull away and get some distance with the draft. We're 2x2 throughout the field. Bobby Zelensky looking to the inside. He'll make it a 3-wide fight for what is position 6 on back. But he can't keep the interstate batteries up and on the gas on the inside. He lifts out of it. They'll go back to 2x2. Keegan Leahy leading the opening lap of the race, but Brad Davies is right there nose to nose for the race lead in turn 2.
It was 4,000ths of a second at the stripe, but they worked down the back straightaway. Still 2x2. No one risking it 3 wide, and we can expect 4 wide later on. And look at the run from that upper line. The 88 of Davies gets clear. Will he duck down to the inside for this race lead in towards 3 and 4? He doesn't commit to it. Started to chop the nose off the 62, but decided to back off. So Keegan may have a chance of leading this race once again at the stripe as they're 3 wide behind. I believe that's a Williams car, Alfala, and Chalner lined up in that second row.
Yeah, the Wood Brothers Toyota of Afal is the one who stepped out from behind. Busa went to the middle. That's why we're 3 wide for second position. You can see Shearburn in the 36 trying to keep that car down as it tiptoed up the hill a little bit. But the 21's getting all the draft in the middle. He tries to look in between your race leaders. Can't find a spot there, though, as it is still Davies and Leahy for the race lead. But just look how many cars are packed in here in the battle for the race lead. Last time by, the top 18 were within 1 second of your race leader.
And Ray Alfala, that driver on the move, giving a little push to Brad Davies across the stripe. Keegan Leahy going to lead that last lap by. Brad Davies in second, and everybody in behind. Matt Busa trying to rubber up that outside line. He's got Brandon Cattell in the main and tail, number 80, to his outside. Shearburn up the racetrack a little bit. It gets tight off turn 2. Ray Alfala will get that run down the back, as will Busa. Where does Ray go? To the inside goes the 21, the Wood Brothers car, going for the lead.
He'll go down to the very bottom of the racetrack, but is he going to experience those tight conditions that the 36 has been dealing with? Leahy drops back in the middle, so Alfala will clear him on the inside. Davies comes charging right up against the wall. He'll stay there on him, so it will still be Brad Davies for the race lead. Now it's Schoenberg to the very inside. The 55 car going to make it 3 wide. That battle for second as Davies clears all of them.
This has to be a roster of drivers up near the front of the field that's going to scratch an itch for Tim Terry. Brad Davies, Ray Alfala, and Brian Schoenberg up near the point. Some of the oldest running drivers in this championship. As the 5 of Matt Busa, he's going to try to work the outside of that 21 of Ray Alfala, who is still cycling into that second spot. 88 of Brad Davies, able to get cleared by a couple car lengths as they work off of turn 4. Down the front straightaway, your leader starting to single file out, but it's still 3 and 4 wide mayhem in your mid-pack.
Brandon Cattell, you were on board with him there in the 80 car. He is already up a handful of spots, started 13th position and runs into 4th at the moment, all within striking distance of Davies as Alfala looks to the bottom again, tries to get a nose on the quarter panel, can't establish the position. He'll tuck in line behind them, and they will draft all the way down this back straightaway from corner number 2 now down into 3 as that Ford Mustang looks down low once more. 2x2 for the top 4 positions as they start to get a little bit of space for the rest of the field, and it is Ray Alfala to the race lead at lap number 6. He goes out in front.
Statistically, this is one of his best racetracks, looking to turn around what has been a horrible season so far. Alfala to the top of the scoring pylon, Davies tucked in behind, and here comes Jake Nichols to the inside. The 20 will take position number 3 away. Brandon Cattell has moved into the top 10 from a 13th place starting position, and now he looks to the inside to further his 5th place run so far in this one. The first side-by-side battle on this racetrack is right there.
Car down in the runoff. I can't tell exactly who it was, but they were way slow. I think they got it back up near the apron, near turn 3. It may have been Ben Nelson who was down there. I'll take a look at the replays and check, but maybe some dramas for someone already working off of turn 2.
If Ben Nelson almost got hit, if we get a replay, I think it'll show you that the 15 car got into him. There's his recovery down in turn 3. I think Michael Guerrilla, who was in a 3-wide situation, came down this track a little bit, tagged Nelson, and the good thing for him is that apron all the way on the back straightaway is paved all the way to the fence, so he was able to hang on to it. Here's the onboard shot. See the blue car on the right come over, contact at the front end, and a great piece of driving to keep that Team Dillon Esports car on the racetrack.
And that thing is going to try to pick up some more positions here as he fell back. And as you mentioned, it's great to see him get down there, not hit anything, get back on the racetrack, and still a part of this, albeit with a little bit of damage to that race car. We stay green on the racetrack. Brandon Cattell battling with the 88 of Brad Davies as they dive it down into corner number 1. Brandon Cattell on the move early in this one. He's got Jarl Tien on his back bumper. Keegan Leahy there as well. The G2 teammates trying to bring it up to the front together as they run down the back straightaway on lap number 9.
It's fast-paced action, but you can see on this shot down the back straightaway just how much 2x2 there is still throughout the field. The lead battle still sees Cattell now using the inside. He is able to clear Davies. The 66 of Tien also gets by, so that'll be down 2 positions for Davies that lap. Cattell is now up 10 as he cracks the top 3 for the first time this evening, and I think that is a single file line through the rest of the top 10 for side-by-side. We saw there the JTG entry of Christian Challenger doing battle. 36 of Shearburn on his outside. Both these cars falling through the field. You can really see they're struggling for grip as these hot conditions are eating away at those tires. Now 10 laps into a run, both of them got really tight that time at turn 2.
And it's something we didn't really talk about is about this temperature. 83 degrees Fahrenheit is what it is ambient, which may not sound that hot, but is completely clear skies for these drivers, which means they're dealing with 125 degree track temps. That's going to be very important for these drivers. As this race goes on, you're going to see people moving around with the dynamic track scene, trying to look for coolness. We heard it from Dale Earnhardt Jr. talking with Steve Myers over the weekend at New Hampshire. The fact that it's not just looking for rubber and maybe clear rubber, but also cool bits of racetrack to find speed. You have a hot race day like this, when you're trying to keep that foot to the floor, you're going to be doing much the same thing here today.
And because cars are so tight together, you never know when calamity can strike. But 10 laps of the 100 on the board, already down at a blistering pace at the start of this Michigan 200. But again, your race leaders, I think, are enjoying the separation. Now it's only top 5 cars that are within a second of your race leader, Ray Alfalla. He's not going to be able to get away, though. Nichols is on the bumper now. How about the 20 car all the way up to P2? Cattell's right there. So both the Joe Gibbs race at entry there in second position and Cattell in third have made impressive drives through the field from 10th and 13th spot, and they were right on Alfalla. He gains a little bit of distance that time at a 2, but I would not be at all surprised if they get to the bumper again and try to make a move or to enjoy that clean air out front.
And when you look at this field right now, you see the 2 G2 teammates going at it with Keegan Leahy and Jarl Tien side by side. Keegan trying to pick up that spot on the inside of his teammate right behind. Ashton Crowder is on the move. He's in the top 10, started in position number 11. Steady MD on that Burton Kligerman Esports car. Debut for the series for that sponsor, and now it looks like he's going to battle with Shearburn. Shearburn going to drive it into the inside and try to pick up one more spot as Crowder fights back on the outside. But great to see those new colors on that 77 car as he fights within the top 10 and tries to bring that thing a little bit closer towards the front of the field.
And Shearburn trying to get away from the 77. It was a side-by-side with the NASCAR and NBC folks battling with the Letard Esports car going up against the Burton Kligerman Esports Toyota, but with the 36 machine getting up on the inside of Davies. Davies lost some speed, rolled out of gas. They're back to 2x2 now at the start-finish line there. This is all for position 6 on back. And again, for Davies, he's almost a second behind Keegan Leahy in P5, so he's not really getting the draft off that car anymore, Randy. He's kind of stuck now as the lead car in this pack. He washes up again at a 2. Another dive to the inside for Shearburn. Going to be very difficult for Davies and the rest of the cars up front here to separate themselves from this pack. You're almost stuck with it, and it goes back to your point how this is almost like our 4th plate race of the year.
Yeah, it's basically going to be a disaster for these guys who are getting themselves up into P6, is that as far as they've dropped from that 5th place running car of Keegan Leahy, they're not going to have any of that slipstream whatsoever as Tien and Leahy, the 2 teammates, once again side by side for 4th and 5th going in towards 1 and 2. And look at the way your top 5 are stacked up. They have not spread out in their race, single file up ahead of them, and they're 2x2 behind. And Jake Nichols having a great run, comes into this race, one of the drivers who needs to have a fantastic run, coming in 15th at points, and he's got that car second on pace at the moment. Jake Nichols doing very well. As well as the fact they have Brandon Hayes Cattell and Jarl Tien up inside of the top 5 as well. Good to see some new names getting themselves up near the point here inside the opening 15-lap run of this race.
And it's almost an accordion effect in this lead group. At points, they'll be single filed out, all 5 of them in a row, and then it'll look like it did about a half lap back, where they're all 2 by 2 and pretty much on top of each other. They get this draft down into 1. Look at the 66 of T, and he'll go way down low. Everybody else, including his teammate, a higher line on entry. Now you'll see Leahy tucking it behind him, and the G2 cars aren't afraid to fight it. We'll go 3 wide for third. Down the back straightaway, Cattell's probably going to be best set up for this. He's got the draft and the wider arc in. He'll slice down, but contact. He comes over the nose of Keegan Leahy sideways, and Brandon Cattell is going to push up the hill. Great job, though, as he hangs on at a turn 4.
Brandon Cattell had to hold on to that pony as the main and tail car went sideways, and you mentioned it, he had that run, just wasn't clear. You're going to see it here again on the replay. Brandon Cattell tries to go low, and I would think that he thought he was clear and just couldn't get to the spotter in time, but great save nonetheless for Brandon Cattell. He'll fall back and now battles with Brad Davies, Matt Busa, and the like. He lost a few positions back to at least position number 7, but all is not lost. He still has a race car to battle with here at Michigan.
Yeah, he made it look pretty easy on the replay. That's him back battling for position, but I think the onboard shot was the best look there. You can see just how far to the right he had to crank that wheel, and that's into the corner when he is doing about 180 miles an hour. So real good piece of driving to just stay in this race. Meanwhile, the battling continues as you see Shearburn down to the bottom. What this did is it brought that top 5 breakaway back to the field a little bit as the G2 cars checked up. Cattell got sideways, lost positioning. So next thing you know, Chris Shearburn right back up into this thing. Isn't going to have the speed off of the corner, and somebody got turned behind down onto the inside of the racetrack. One car at least around, and a caution flag is out for the first time tonight.
It's the 6 of Novak. That car that's been so strong the last handful of races comes into this race 1 point out of your top 8 cutoff. He's getting cycle to the back of the field. That car looks clean. I don't think he's had any hard contact with anything. Although actually taking that back, looking at the back of that number 6 car, that Roush machine has a little bit of damage, but a bit of a stack up off of turn 2. Number 5 just gets into him. They tag just a little bit, and Zach Novak pretty much a passenger at that point. But man, oh man, things are getting excited up near the front of the field. We just talked about Chris Shearburn and how he was going to struggle to rein in those top 5, and then about 2 laps he was there.
Yeah, and we just saw them on the right-hand side of your screen when it was live. That car dart to the inside, and it was good to see that they both stayed at the wall. You can see both of them onto the brakes. When they get the nose pitched back out, they get back onto the throttle to drive it away for the inside wall. And that's at least the second time that all that pavement down there below the racetrack at the apron on the backstretch has saved a couple of cars from getting junked. A little bit of damage, but it does bring out a caution flag. First one for us on the afternoon. So as we work lap number 19 of 100, you can expect to see all the race leaders in this time for 4 tires and fuel, and it'll set us up for another exciting race start as Alfala will be the first one in, the 21 car to pit road with Nichols right on the bumper.
And I would almost have to think Bobby Zielinski's going to have a little bit of damage after that one. Got a little piece of that one as Busa and Novak went sliding through the infield. One thing to note as well, Zach Novak, the last 2 races here at Michigan, has finished runner-up in both races, 1 to Luza and 1 to Conti. And with him being on the bubble, just like Ray Alfala, you'd think this would be the racetrack that they could really turn it around, but the Wyndham Rewards number 6 is going to have a tough sled to try to get that thing back, get a little momentum, but it is still early here at Michigan as everybody is on pit road.
And no surprise that it does look like, Randy, they're all going for 4 tires, at least up front. We talked about the track conditions and the high track temps that's really going to aid and abet the need for tires. Alfala first off, no issues there. You did see Timmy Hill, that's the Flipside Tactics car, who's actually the first car out of pit road, but I do believe that car just drove straight through the pit lane. So the Stats Helix Toyota is, I'm assuming, going to come back in the next time, back down to pit road, and it should remain with the 21 car leading.
Yeah, I think you're right. He didn't even hit the box whatsoever, so I have to imagine Timmy Hill is going to come down pit road, Alpha turn 4 this time. But for the most part, everyone in your top 5 remains pretty consistent. A couple drivers maybe up and down one spot, but I don't really think we have any big losers after that first round of pit stops. Normally we see some people have dramas on pit road, and well, everyone inside of the top 5 on and off pit road clean, maybe lost a position, maybe picked one up, but other than that, basically going to be the same suspects from what we saw when the yellow came out.
It'd be interesting to see what Jarl Tien can do. Tien leapfrogs over Jake Nichols in between 2nd and 3rd position. So that actually set up Tien to the outside of the front row. May not be better then to be in third. Nichols, who will be behind the control car, Alfalo, we assume, has a chance to get it a better start. You do see now Timmy Hill bring the car down to pit road, and also a car picking up some spots. Ashton Crowder was P6 with the pit stops kicked off. He'll jump 2 positions to 4th, so that'll put him on the outside of the second row. A couple of cars sat down for repairs on pit road, including Novak and Zelensky, along with Diaz and Luza. So a handful of drivers deciding to go down pit road, get the damage fixed early on in this one. Aero sensitivity obviously at a high at a racetrack like this as the lights go back on top of the pace car. It'll be a restart with 79 left on the board.
When you look at that top 10, the first name that stands out to me, first time in the top 10 this evening, is Garrett Lowe. He's in position number 9 now, started in 19, so he's already up 10 positions. But Garrett Lowe kind of on that bubble on the top that we talked about off the top of the show, Evan, with guys like Luza and Leahy, where Garrett Lowe, with a good night, could lock himself in to a playoff position and have a little bit of breathing room going into Bristol in a couple of weeks' time. But keep an eye on that Renegades number 28 in the top 10 already, and looking for a little bit more here as Ray Alfala and Jarl Tien get ready to lead us to green as they work into corner number 3.
Looks like all 38 cars who took the green flag in this one, at least at the moment, still being shown as scored on the lead lap. A couple of them just catching up to the field as they stayed on pit road for some extended repairs, but at least nobody has had to go behind the wall yet to this point early on in the Michigan 200. It'll be Ray Alfala's field control as the pace car heads down at 8. Just how early is the virtual racing school for the Mustang? Going to put the right foot down and get back on the gas. It's his field as they come into the restart box. He'll wait all the way to the end. Green flag now back in the air.
So Wood Brothers Ford, first time really in a while we've seen this car leading under green flag conditions. Had 27 laps of leading coming into this race, but I think a lot of those were on strategy calls. Look at it up the inside. I see a Williams Esports car. I believe that's going to be the 55 of Brian Schoenberg trying to work the middle up the inside of the 36 of the Letard Esports car there, working down the back straightaway, pushing that 28 of Garrett Lowe. Now here comes the 27 as well of Corey Vincent. He wants to get into this. They're 4 wide into 3.
It's the 88 way up on the outside. He's side by side with the 36 car there in the middle. The 27 and the 14, they're making it on the line, and it is still 4 wide at a turn number 4 as Davies goes backwards up top because he's got no drafting up. Look at Michael Conti in the 8. He wants to decide what lane to go to, thinks about the bottom behind Chilberg. He'll throw it down there, so 2 by 2 the top 5, 4 wide still for the rest of the top 10 as they almost go 5 wide with the 8 car deciding not to do so. They'll tuck in line a little bit.
Casey Tucker still stuck in the middle in the 19 car. He's going to get back to 2 wide as Schoenberg tucks in behind him, just behind the Michael Conti. Still 3 wide on the inside. He's got Chalner in the middle. Here comes Jimmy Mullis through the middle in the Federated Auto Parts number 46 as he goes through the middle. The 88 of Brad Davies on the outside. They get 3 wide again ahead of them. This is exciting racing after a restart. Brian Schoenberg is on the move on the inside of Dylan Duval. Where do you watch here, Evan?
Well, it's very similar to what we saw at the start of the race, but of course these restarts are only going to get more and more exciting. Look at the wide shots. It's not just 3 wide for the race lead. It is the entire field racing 3 and 4 wide down the back straightaway. Oh, wow. Ray Alfala and Brandon Cattell have been side by side, nose to nose for the race lead ever since we went back green. The 21 is going to barely inch ahead at a 4. He might slide up and take control, but Alfala for the first time can at least blink off of this restart. He leads at the completion of lap number 24, but we are still 3 wide. The 66, the Jarl Tien, maybe with the only car up on the third. The 42 goes up there with him, but it's a bad quarter entry for Duval, and now there's 2 sets of 4 wide.
It's a 14 of Kerwin who slots it down on the bottom, making it 4 wide just outside of your top 5. It's not going to hold, and there's going to be no momentum from down there as they work down the back straightaway. 3 wide nearly for 4th. The 77's up there against the outside. Well, excuse me, down on the low bottom of the racetrack. It's the 20 who's up there around the outside through 3 and 4 on the 27 of Corey Vincent. Ashton Crowder able to get clear and take that one away as Garrett Lowe, Cattell, and Alfala, they're going to continue to fight. Alfala all by himself on the bottom line. Will the 80 have the momentum up top off of 2?
And as we start to get deeper into this run and these fresh tires wear in, that line is going to move up and up the racetrack. So Alfala could struggle with no support on the bottom. He's hoping that 77 Crowder gets on behind him, but it's not going to be the case. He brings his Steady MD Toyota to the outside line, tucks it behind the HyperX Renegades entry of the 28 of Garrett Lowe, and Alfala's going to have to make it happen on his own as we are 3 wide for the race lead, and the 21 with a valiant drive into turn 4, got about a half a car length in front, but look at these two in the middle, just how much faster they are. It's Crowder pushing Cattell to turn 1.
Crowder chose that middle groove and pushes Cattell into the lead down into corner number 1. The 28 of Garrett Lowe, little bit of a wiggle. He falls back to 4th, and don't look now, Jake Nichols taking a little peek to the inside, and behind him it's the Peak 14 of Casey Kerwin. It's starting to get a little less intense up in front, but as I say that, there goes Kerwin to the inside, trying to get up to Ray Alfala in the 21. The spin, number 21 trying to take the lead, and there's the focus of Casey Kerwin on the left-hand side of your screen as he goes at it for a lead position. Crowder comes down into the inside, goes back up to the outside. Alfala will lead this lap.
And you can see just how locked in he is. I don't think he's blinked since we picked up this live camera of him, but he's also talking with the crew while he's driving, letting them know what's happening. Again, a lot of these drivers have a lot of people in the sim with them as a spotter, as a crew chief, and obviously communicated with them as he now has a small opportunity to get single filed out, but it's not going to last long. To the inside he goes, and he'll challenge for the race lead. We're 3 wide again. Kerwin on the bottom. That is the 21 machine of Alfala in the middle. It is Brandon Cattell on the outside, and that dive for the 14 did not work.
He's going to be able to settle into that third spot, though, and he will get alongside with that 77. Up the inside, though, the 2 of Kane Cook. He wants to throw his hat in the ring. They're going to be 3 wide for second, nearly 4, as the 80 at Cattell kind of takes that line away from the 77 for a moment. That's going to allow Ray Alfala to get clear and get right up against the wall down the back straightaways. They're going to get relatively narrowed out 2 by 2 down this back straightaway and in towards 3 and 4, and Cattell eyeing up the inside of Ray Alfala into 3. Move's not going to be there.
It's great action all throughout the field. This portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by PEAK Antifreeze, the official antifreeze of the 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. And you're seeing the top 3 try to get some separation, just unable to do so. The 77 came down right as Garrett Lowe tried to look to the inside. He had the lift out of the throttle. Now Kerwin's the one who slides up over the nose of Kane Cook. Oh, there's going to be contact. The 2 cars around. Now it's the 20, and Jake Nichols will spin down the back straightaway. Second caution of the afternoon.
And that's going to take out a few of your front runners. Jake Nichols, a little bit of damage to his race car after coming down and getting into the door of Casey Kerwin. You're going to take a look at the replay here. And Evan, as you mentioned, it was almost like it was 2 incidents. Kane Cook went sideways, and Jake Nichols, for a moment, almost had it saved, came down the racetrack, and Casey Kerwin was there. And the Toyota Racing Development number 20 goes for a spin, and that'll bring out our second caution flag of the evening. But look at that 2 car of Kane Cook go up the racetrack just a little bit here, and you see that air being disrupted, and all heck breaks loose in front and behind him.
And I thought we were maybe in the clear when Nichols and Tien saved it, but then you did see Nichols get into the outside wall. Cook, saved it, and then the 20 bounced off of the outside wall, came down. Miracle for the 14 division Kerwin that he didn't get junked. He got hit pretty hard in the right rear quarter panel. Here's an onboard shot of all the action going on in front of Michael Conti in the Junior Motorsports entry, diving through the smoke, going low, and finding a way through that is able to avoid being a part of, again, the second caution flag of the night, and a much slower and shorter run this time through after it was chaos off the drop of the green flag. We're now pacing at lap number 31.
And you have to wonder if these guys are maybe going to calm it down a little bit, because I think the way they were going 3 and 4 wide here just 30 laps into the race, that was, I think, a little bit more than inevitable. It's been a little bit curious with this series, hasn't it? We've had the 2 green-white checkers off back-to-back weeks, and both times the green-white checkered restarts were actually relatively clean. It's when these guys are in the early parts of the race on those restarts is when they tend to get aggressive. So maybe these guys take that as a reality check, realize they need to just tone it down a little bit and make sure they can get these cars to the end of the race. We had a relatively clean set of pit stops last time through. No one really losing out. Let's see if the same thing happens on cycle number 2.
Looks like Alfala, first car in once more, going to go for the 4 tires to fuel. And of course, you can't get too deep into the box. The 5 car, just as I say that, Matt Busa, a bit of a mistake. But look at the race off of pit road. 1, 2, 3 cars going to get around Alfala as Brandon Cattell wins the race off of pit road, followed by Ashton
No, it's Luza.
Crowder
Luza's the
and
first
Garrett
one
Lowe.
off. Luza on 2 tires.
So a pit strategy call. The 53 machine is, I think the 53 actually may have missed his pit stall and drove right through. And that's why he was so far ahead of the race off of the pit lane. Didn't even catch him there. We saw his Flipside Tactics teammate do the same thing last time. I don't think that was by design. I think Luza just missed his stall. He'll be back in, and it will be Cattell to P1.
And you know what? Looking at Luza's entry down pit lane, Evan, it doesn't even look like that if he missed his stall, he didn't at least make an attempt to go down through that second hash mark. He stayed out on that hammer lane, per se, on pit road. And tough break for Ryan Luza, but at the end of the day, he was running back there to begin with. He started in 34th. Last lap by was scored in 21st. He's definitely going to have to come down into pit road to get service this time. So it hasn't really been a good night so far for your championship point leader, but it's still very early in this one, still shy of the halfway mark in this one, as the number 53 will hit his box this time, and the crew will go to work on that one. But Brandon Cattell up in front of this field, and the 80 has had an up-and-down season, Evan. He's had some really strong runs, but he really hasn't had the finishes to show for them. One of the independent drivers looking to make a name for himself here.
I know he's the race leader, so it goes without saying, but for much of this race, when he was battling inside of the top 5, has been the highest independent driver in the field, and he goes to the race lead after Alfala had the slowest pit stop amongst drivers inside of the top 10 with a 15.3 second stop to get 4 tires in fuel. That is what cost him 3 positions, so you'll find that number 21 Ford on the outside of row 2 in a 4th position for this restart. And now we'll put this to the test, Randy. Will they really take it easier on this run? Because that last restart was insane with all of the 3 to 4 wide, and again, we are just now, this time by, going to be taking 1/3 distance, so a long way to go. And these guys obviously, I think, want to keep these machines in one piece and be racing at the end of this one.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many people up there near the front of the field that have so much riding on this race. The 46 of Jimmy Mullis looking into maybe getting towards the top 8, of course. You have a lot of cars out there to about 20th that are near that cutoff point to get into the top 8. And, of course, drivers like Garrett Lowe restarting 3rd, wanting to make this something as well, something of this as well. But I think this 80 car, we've seen him up and down the field. Remember, he almost got spun trying to split the G2 teammates, and he quickly got to the lead as he's getting ready to bring him back to green.
Pace cars off and away. Cattell's time to control the field. It's a much earlier restart this time as we go back green. 33 laps complete from Michigan, and the 80 machine with a good jump. He's got a couple of car lengths into turn number 1. Not sure it's going to last for long because they're already punching and drafted up to him by the time we get into the center of 1 and 2.
Yeah, we're going to see a big gaggle of cars down that back straightaway. Kane Cook on the outside. First one to duck his nose on the outside. Ashton Crowder going to join him to the outside. Brandon Cattell is Ray Alfala and Garrett Lowe. Look at them fan out 2 and 3 wide in behind. Down into corner number 3, the 77 of Crowder trying to make something happen on the outside. Keegan Leahy is there. Schoenberg gets sideways. Oh boy, it's going to get tight off 4.
Almost got dumped as that 62 Leahy saw the bobble and made a move to the inside. Somehow they stay off each other, and they will be 3 wide there, center of the pack. Look at the 4 wide outside of the top 15 as they are all stacked several rows deep, and they will get it to just the 3 wide by the time they get into the quarter as the battle for the race lead is on. Ray Alfala back to the point on the inside line, pushed by Garrett Lowe, and he has a car length advantage. Cattell still right there. He's pushed by Crowder, pushed by Cook. 3 lined up on the outside, 4 on the inside, but it is the 21 car fast back to the lead.
21 car, that Wood Brothers Racing Ford Mustang, is definitely good on the fresh tires, on the restarts. Ray able to get up to the front of the field really quickly, but I think that's somewhat helped by Cattell getting such a big lead the way he did. Now the 28 of Garrett Lowe is going to be some blue oval on blue oval action as they roll through 1 and 2. Roll in the middle is going to be Garrett Lowe, not quite going to work out of the 46 of Mullis. Sucks up to the back of the 21 off of turn 2. Down the back straightaway will Mullis. Last race's winner at Pocono. Will he make something of this? No, but they're going to be 3 wide for second, and you have the likes of Corey Vincent and Ashton Crowder wanting to take advantage of this as well.
Yeah, how about Jimmy Mullis? Started in 23rd position, is up to 4th right now. So an incredible drive for the Richmond Raceway Esports driver. The Federated Auto Parts Toyota is on the bumper of Ray Alfalla, and he'll push your race leader down into the corner. He's got Corey Vincent behind him, so still 3 wide here with Cattell, the lone car, up top. The 27 got tied, and Dylan Duval's boxed in the 42 with nowhere to go. So he'll use his momentum to shove Crowder as all of these drivers trying to give it 110%, but there's just no space to put all these cars.
You need to try to position yourself to get up to the front of the field after a few laps and try to get up there when all the calamity starts to calm down a little bit. Dylan Duval giving a little push to Brandon Cattell on that outside line. Garrett Lowe is on the outside line. Look at the run that Jimmy Mullis gets. Mullis to the inside. Cattell got pushed out wide. We're 3 wide. We were almost 4 wide for a moment. Here comes Corey Vincent to the inside. What does Garrett Lowe do? He's kind of stuck in the middle there off turn 2. Maybe he goes low on Ray Alfalla. He's going to get there, but Ashton Crowder also to the inside. Mullis to the lead.
Alfalla doesn't want to sit around either. He'll go to the outside of the 46 of Mullis and try to prevent the 46 car from even leading this lap by. But the 21 loses his pusher. Cattell can't stay on him off the quarter. It'll be a drag race to the line. The 28 Lowe throws his support behind Alfalla. Drag race to the line. It is the 21 car that time, as Cattell really now giving a shove to those cars in front of him. You can see him twitching down into turn number 1 as they made contact at high speed. These cars aren't dropping below 180 miles an hour in the quarter, and they're pushing like it's a super speedway.
And it was timely for the 21 of Alfalla getting able to get back to the top side of the racetrack the time that he did. About 4 or 5 laps into the run, after every restart, we've seen that bottom line go away. Ray Alfalla, he lost that lead for a moment, got cycled up top, and that's when that bottom groove started to go away. The fight for second is still on as we ride on board with the 27 of Corey Vincent. Looking at the 42 of Dylan Duval out in front of him. That 42 car has been moving on this restart as well. He started in the mid-pack, got his way up into the top 6. Ashton Crowder just ahead of that fight as well. Most of your top 5 single file, but Garrett Lowe and Jimmy Mullis, they aren't pulling any punches.
Yeah, they're going to fight side by side for second, so maybe Alfalla gets a breather here, and they'll stay challenging one another as the 21 doesn't have a car on his inside or outside for the first time in quite a little while. They'll pull a few car lengths to the 4, but again, don't
we got cars around. I think the 4's in the wall. You get a handful of cars in the wall.
I think the 4 and Nathan Lyon. Yeah, he hangs
Go
on
ahead.
to it. The 4 car with left side damage. The yellow flag is out. So it looks like they were able to hang on, and that is contact actually beneath him with a couple of teammates. Michael Guerrilla and Eric J. Smith, the Jim Beaver Esports cars, got into one another. It pushed the 15 up into the 4, and I think when they got sideways, it triggered the caution flag, but a great piece of driving, Randy, it should be noted, by the 4 to hang on to that, and I think most importantly, for the rest of the field behind him to not plow on in. As the replay will show you, if you get a car sideways in front of the field like that, you don't always get away.
Yeah, and that's what we saw there. What really caused that incident was, unfortunately, the pair of Jim Beaver Esports cars getting into one another. I don't think Eric J. Smith was expecting his teammate to have to check up the way he did. He sort of got that car loose, trying to get it turned and trying to get it checked up going into turn 3. He was not expecting that car to have to turn such a tight radius and get down to the bottom, and that's why that door-to-door contact really came in, and unfortunate there for those guys to get caught up in that. I will say, mighty nice driving as well from the 53 of Ryan Luther. That started right in front of him. He had that incident just kick off right off the nose. He got a little bit of it from the spinning number 15, but besides that, he was able to pretty much get clear. That could have been a race-ending issue for sure, and really made that last cutoff race at Bristol really interesting if he got caught up in it. But man, oh man, Ryan Luther just very, very lucky there to avoid disaster.
So back down pit road, and you know, these shorter runs, I guess, open the window of possibility, Tim, but I would assume our race leaders are sticking true to that tried and tested strategy of 4 every time.
I think you would have to at this point, at least up front. Ray Alfalla is going to take 4 in that spin forward, and he pulls out Garrett Lowe. It looks like it's going to be a little bit quicker than Alfalla off pit road. Crowder right in behind, so the Renegades, number 28, will lead this field off of pit road, and 2 and 3 wide off pit road, trying to get those last couple of positions that you can get. But the 28 of Garrett Lowe going to be out in front when we throw the green flag here in just a few laps.
So notably, the second trip down to the pit lane in a row in which Ray Alfala came in as the race leader and lost the race lead. He only loses one position this time through, as mentioned, to Garrett Lowe. You see the Renegades entry there as he'll go to the point. Alfala still second. It'll be Crowder, Mullis, and Cattell to round out your top five. And, well, you want to talk a little bit about the strategy game. How about the number 6 Wyndham Rewards Ford Mustang of Zach Novak from deeper in the pack? Was scored in 23rd at the time. He did decide to go with just 2 tires, and he's now inside of the top 10.
This is an interesting call from the 6. I'm not going to lie. It was not the shortest of runs that we've had. It was only about 7 laps, but there's going to be a lot of tire slip with 2 tires, and especially only taking the right sides. He is going to be fighting loose, and this could be a disaster for him. He currently finds his way only 1 point out of the top 8, and I think this is maybe a little bit, Tim, a bit of a risk to have yourself going into the cutoff race at Bristol next week to risk this early in the race. I could understand if we were coming up to a 2-lap run or a green-white checkered coming to end the race, but with 57 laps to go, I'm not sure this is a gamble worth taking for Zach Novak.
I think, Randy, he's trying to get a quick caution. We had about, 10 laps in between these last 2 caution flags, so you get a quick caution, you don't fall back a ton. Considering where Zach Novak was running on this last run, I kind of like the strategy if we get another 10 or so lap run, because he's going to gain some track position. But Evan, I'm with Randy. That I guess that's why we're up here and not down on the pit box. But it's an interesting call by Zach Novak. I'm not sold either way on it, but he's got to do something after the start that he had to the race for this number 16.
Well, it's worth noting, you mentioned he is 1 point out of the playoffs as we get set to go back green here. The car that he is 1 point behind is Nick Ottinger. They sit 8th and 9th in the points. Ottinger's back 19th position on the racetrack, so this immediately throws Novak way in front of him. I guess if you don't fall back to further than 19th, it's okay, because they're only 1 point in between those two. They could basically race head-to-head for what would be the final transfer spot into these 2019 playoffs. The pace car's down and in, though, 3rd time in a row. It is a different car controlling the restart this time through. The number 28 machine of Garrett Lowe on the inside once again waits all the way to the exit of the restart box. We go back green, 43 laps complete.
We saw Brandon Cattell the last restart. He made the mistake of getting a good jump and letting the field draft up on him. Garrett Lowe's not going to make that mistake, but he's going to be wheel-to-wheel with Ray Alfala in towards turn 1. We ride on board with a Cattell, and look at how tight these guys are packed together right now, running through 1 and 2. Everyone just about pushing each other as they work down the back straightaway, and this is where, if 3 and 4 wide is going to happen, into 3 is where it's going to come as the 21 gets a big shove from the 46 of Mullis.
They stay 2 by 2, at least in the top 10. There is some 3 wide. It looks like it's outside of the top 15. But those rows, inside and out, have stayed loyal to each other through this opening lap off of the restart. Now it's Cattell who steps up the hill. He'll go to the middle. It'll get the wake off of the 46 of Jimmy Mullis. So he'll draft up 3 wide, and here we go. Reynolds to the inside as he'll make it 3 wide as well. 2 rows of 3 wide for the race lead as the 28 Lowe tries to get to the inside of Alfala, who's barely got a nose in front.
And how about Zach Novak on that outside line, second, pushing Jimmy Mullis to the lead position, or at least trying to. Ray Alfala still has that nose there to the inside. Novak a little bit free on that outside line. Chris Overland now in the mix, trying to make it 3 wide, potentially 4 wide, as he gives a little push to the number 30 of Blake Reynolds. Reynolds has moved a ton since the start of this race, up from 26th position, up in the top 5, or at least flirting with a top 5 run. We're 3 wide, stacked about 4 deep here down into turn 1.
It's everybody. Look at the 2080. Pushes up into Cattell. Cattell pushes up into Mullis. These cars are playing bumper cars at 185 miles an hour. The 3 wide is now 6 rows deep down the back straightaway. There's a move at the bottom. Cattell wants to go for the race lead. Trying to work the inside of Ray Alfala. He'll push up off of the quarter, and the 21 yields high to give him some space. Now it's Garrett Lowe pushing the inside, giving Cattell the nose at the start-finish line.
The 21 trying to pinch the 80 a little bit, and Brandon Cattell did not put up with it whatsoever. Moved that 21, scared that 21 off the racetrack just a little bit, and he's going to get down to the bottom, but can he make it work? We know that upper line goes away, or excuse me, comes in. The bottom line goes away after a few laps of running. A little bit of contact from behind. Mullis gets into the back of, I believe that was the 30 of Blake Reynolds. They managed to avert disaster there. That could have been the field gone, as the 21 of Alfala is going to hit the eject button.
Yeah, the 21 got way up and into the gross stuff, but he lost all his speed in turns 3 to 4. He'll go from his second position on the racetrack all the way down to 11th, and it's not even done there because more cars are trying to work still to the inside of him as he is in a 3-wide battle for that spot on back. In front of them now, it's Cattell getting pushed to the race lead by Garrett Lowe. He'll slide up in front of the 30 car of Blake Reynolds to take the race lead. Another shot to the bumper there, Tim, and these cars have been beaten and banging so much, a lot of these back bumpers and front noses are kind of crinkled up a bit with damage, and I think that's maybe why we saw the big scare with Reynolds bobbling. The car behind him hit him pretty square, but the damage is causing a lot of problems when they're hitting each other as hard as they are.
Yeah, you see it right there, looking up to Blake Reynolds' car as he goes down to the inside, trying to make something happen here for position number 2. Keep a close eye on the battle out and back. The top-running Wood Brothers car right now is Chris Overland. Overland now in the top 10 after starting in 32nd position. Great run for that driver. I know he needs a good run to really turn the momentum around. He's battling with Dylan Duval in the 42, so keep an eye on this spin at number 16 as he continues to work to the front. And speaking about the front, Brandon Cattell trying to hold off Garrett Lowe up the racetrack in corner number 4. Lowe trying to make something happen as they come down across the stripe. It'll be 1-2 on that outside line, single file battle for third, side by side.
Yeah, that 28 machine, though, in second has been all over the bumper of Cattell, not being shy about it at all. And those top two going to get a small opportunity to pull away as, again, on that long run that we saw earlier on, it was about the top 5 that had broken away. For the rest of the field, they still don't have that separation. You can see a single file train up against the outside wall connects your race leaders to everybody else in the field, but it is no longer 3 and 4 wide. The battles are down to single file or 2 by 2 as Reynolds right there in the beneath entry goes underneath the number 46 car at Jimmy Mullis. This battle is for third, but with no help down low, going to be tough for the 30 to make it. Now here comes the other Wood Brothers race at entry, the ride spin forward of Chris Overland. He'll dive down to join the bottom lane.
Yeah, how about seeing this 16 up near the head of the field? Got drafted with the last driver picked in the draft at the start of the year, and he hasn't really had the sort of season he would like. Really, everyone involved there with Wood Brothers and even Slip Angle not had a great season overall, and we have the 21 of Ray Alfala. He's been quick all day. It should be no surprise then that this 16 of Chris Overland is performing well also. He's going to work momentum off to corner number 4 and try to make a move on that steady MD number 77 is at the head of the field. Brandon Cattell, he's been able to break away, and we've seen what happens when you open up a big gap from the lead. You tend to get sucked up on really quickly, and here comes that 28, nearly already working the slipstream as they turned in towards 1, but maybe the Clean Air working for that 80 as well. He's starting to break away off of 2.
Clean Air helps in the fact that they're still fighting side by side for second. He's not going to just drive away from the field, but it is the reason why he had maybe 3 car lengths of an advantage at the far end of the racetrack. Down here, you saw the gap close into about a second, so that's at least 2 car lengths of a difference with having the draft help suck you up to the cars in front of you versus as the race leader, having the benefit of Clean Air. The car's not going to get aero tight. However, those cars are just not going to get off your bumper. They're going to draft up every single time. Look at the speed difference as Blake Reynolds now goes to the inside. He tries to make the pass at one fell swoop. He's almost clear that time at a 2. And in fact, he does get him. Nice move by Blake Reynolds to go to the race lead. Cattell not going to roll over, though. He'll look right back to the outside. But the 30 car elbows up at lap 53.
And it looked like Jimmy Mullis was going to go to the outside to help Brandon Cattell, and then he goes down to the inside. Reynolds up the racetrack. Jimmy Mullis, the lone driver, on the inside of this battle, and there goes the 30, trying to figure out where that 80 of Cattell is going to go. It's going to be the 30 of Reynolds leading this lap, but Cattell going to get that run on the outside. Does he have Mullis to help him? Mullis goes back to the inside line. Fantastic racing up in front. Garrett Lowe, you can see him in 4th, and then a whole host of hungry drivers in behind trying to pick up positions. Top 3 for the time being down the back straightaway, get single file, but you can see the 80 trying to break the draft a little bit down the back and into 3.
really impressed by all three of these cars up front, but I mean, Reynolds and Cattell have been exchanging blows. Jimmy Mullis has been a little bit smarter about it in that number 46 Toyota, just kind of sitting back in third and watching these two exchange blows. He does have Garrett Lowe pushing him. That's what you don't see as you're on board with Mullis as he closes in right to the back of the 80 car, thinks of going low, and he'll try to make the bottom of the racetrack work. Just will not happen this time, and Garrett Lowe's got a bit of a run. I wonder if that 28 car is going to make a move on him. No, he'll stay on the bumper. So those back for the race lead working together as it's another 2x2 fight for the lead with Cattell once more down low. Reynolds in the 30 will not let the 80 walk away with this. He's going to challenge him every single opportunity he can, and he'll cross over to the inside out of 4 to make another run at it.
It's like watching some dirt track racing on a Saturday night, isn't it, with all these crossovers. One of these guys gets a run, gets up the inside, slide jobs them, the other works the cutback and takes the lead right back. Blake Reynolds lost it for a moment, and he picks it back up as they go through one. Can the 46 of Mullis make something on the 80 of Cattell? Because Mullis has definitely had the run, and Cattell didn't like that top groove, but look at the momentum off of 2 for the 80. Here comes the cutback move once again. The 80 of Cattell gonna run the slide job line in towards 3 and 4. Can't quite get clear. Yes, he can. He's going to get there. The 46 of Mullis blocks the cutback from Blake Reynolds, though, so that's going to be lead taken for Brandon Hayes. Cattell and Mullis 1 second.
Yeah, Mullis with the nose inside didn't allow the 30 to go back low, and as soon as he gets clear, there it is. So these two continue to go back and forth. It was Cattell that time, but it start-finish on it. In fact, the last time by, it was scored as a dead-even draw, down to 3 decimal points between those two. So looking very even as Jimmy Mullis, who's been pretty calm, now getting aggressive. He forces his way to the inside. So Cattell can't go low. He'll go to the outside, and watch him to enter high, exit low. It's what these two have done the last couple of times around. We'll see if the 80 car does it again. Drafts up, looks to the inside. There's the dive again, side by side for the race lead at lap 57. Incredible stuff.
They're playing a high-speed game of chess right now between these three, and if they continue to play it, they're going to enter some more players in behind. The 28 of Garrett Lowe, the 77 of Ashton Crowder have been exchanging that 4th place position, currently occupied by Garrett Lowe, but Ashton Crowder goes back to the inside as he battles it out for position number 4. And how about the independent Dylan Duval back there in position number 6, riding one of the best runs that he has had all season long in the Simcraft Ford, just there, just outside this battle. But as they continue to swap positions up in front, Evan, that 42 gets a little bit closer and trying to get that top 5 run to get that momentum that he needs heading into what would be a top 20 run, or at least trying to lock himself into the series for next year. And Ashton Crowder slides right up in front of him.
Not going to take our eyes off of the action, but a couple of laps to go past the halfway point in this Michigan 200. So let's take a look top to bottom at our iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with professionally sanctioned series by the likes of NASCAR and many more. The battle for the race lead has Brandon Cattell leading. He'll be atop the 46, and Jimmy Mullis in second. Blake Reynolds is currently scored third, and the 28 of Garrett Lowe is fourth. That'll probably be different in 2 miles from now as they complete lap number 59. But behind them, Ashton Crowder runs in 5th at the moment. Dylan Duval is P6. Your pole sitter Keegan Leahy down in 7th position. Corey Vincent's in 8th. Your biggest movers are right behind there. Taylor Hurst up 21 spots. He's in 9th. And Zach Novak rounds out your top 10.
And they keep changing in behind. Chris Overland last time by scored in 11th. Ray Alfala last time by scored in 12th. Michael Conti in 13th on your screen, but he went up back to 14th. Kane Cook was 13th the last time by. Jarl T in 15th. Brian Schoenberg, Michael Guest, Adam Benefield, Casey Tucker, Malik Ray, top 20, and Randy. They continue to change, as you can see on your screen.
Yeah, they're even confusing the technology as our graphic seems to have forgot how to count. It's Logan Kress this time scored in 21st, Zelensky in 22nd, Ben Nelson in 23rd, Chris Shearburn started on the outside of the front row, buried in 24th in that Letard Esports entry. Ryan Luza, 25th, started in the back, has stayed there pretty much all race. Nicholas Shelton in 26th. Casey Kerwin got damage early. He's not yet recovered in 27th, with Onger, Davies, and Nichols rounding out your top 30.
Phil Diaz is 31st spot. Matt Busa scored in 32nd, with 33rd going to Ryan Lowe, Eric J. Smith 34th, and Nathan Lyon into P35. You also have the Christian Challenger, Michael Guerrilla, and Timmy Hill 36th, 37th, and 38th. That is a complete look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com to sign up today and use promo code PR-eNASCAR 2019. You can get your first 3 months as a member for just $10. Again, that's PR-eNASCAR 2019. That applies to new iRacing memberships only. And something that is not new is the battle for the race lead, but this time it's the 62 to the inside. Keegan Leahy's joined the fun, and he leads it that time by.
You look at Keegan Leahy that last time by. 2 laps ago, Jimmy Mullis went to the inside. Keegan Leahy went further to the inside to try to pick up what would have been position number 3 at the time. 1 lap later, he's in the lead battling with Brandon Cattell and now pulling away a little bit from that number 80, Cattell. Cattell gets that draft down the back straight away and will try to get back into that inside. 63 laps completed this time by, and Evan, we're starting to get into that pit window, starting to see some of those drivers consider heading down onto pit road, and we'll see what happens here. This race does look green, or at least it has the last little bit.
Yeah, 38 or so is about the magic number on fuel, and we are inside of 38 laps to go in this race. This portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Blue Def Diesel Exhaust Fluid, certified pure #1 diesel exhaust fluid, and that means that drivers are starting to think about it, but the risk being, Randy, that we haven't seen a green flag run tonight that has brought us all the way to green flag pit stops. There's a risk that you come down to the pit lane. It's a long pit road here at MIS, that you could lose a lap, and if you're one of the first cars down pit road, a quick yellow comes out, you're trapped. So that would maybe be a reason why some drivers are hesitant. You do see 2 of them at the back of the field dive down, but your race leader is not yet willing to take it.
And honestly, if you're one of these other guys, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, you might have to come down for tires. Because look at this 62 at Keegan Leahy. He was outside of the top 6 for a big chunk of this run. Maybe the only driver out there was a car built to last on the long green flag run, because he has absolutely ran away from the 80 and the 28, and they are not able to suck back up to him. So really good on the old tires at the moment is that 62 of Keegan Leahy. He's just building the gap lap on lap over the rest of these guys. He was 2.5 tenths quicker last trip around the racetrack all by himself without any slipstream. 4 tenths quicker this time than the likes of Cattell. So that 62 car is moving.
We haven't seen an advantage for the race lead like this all night long. He's more than a half a second ahead in the battle for the race lead. Lowe and Cattell are still fighting like they were 10 laps ago, and this time it's just for second position as opposed to everybody else on back throughout the field. But, you know, Keegan Leahy comes into tonight 15 points behind Ryan Luza in the championship standings. Yes, those points are going to reset, but Luza's having a rough night down into P25. We could be looking at a new championship points leader for the first time in quite some time if the way they run holds through to the end of this race. 33 more laps to go next time by.
We've talked to these drivers, though, Evan, and they said the regular season championship is great, but at the end of the season, it's the championship that pays all the money, all the trophy, and all the prestige. So the regular season championship is great. They're concerned about locking themselves into the playoffs, though Ryan Luza can make his effort a little more easier coming up at Bristol if he can pull up his socks here in this one at Michigan. But we still got some laps to run here. Jimmy Mullis takes a look to the inside of Brandon Cattell. This is the battle for position number 3. Ashton Crowder a part of this one, and they've got the next lap back, or the next driver back, by about 3 lengths, but Zach Novak is beginning to close in car number 6. So Novak, after starting off the evening a little bit subpar compared to where he probably wanted to, he is now back up into the top 10 and firmly into the top 10 as he gets that run down the back straightaway and sucks right up to this battle.
Last time by, Keegan Leahy was half a second faster than everybody else. His advantage went from 0.8 of a second to 1.3. He is blitzing the field here at Michigan as we await for your race leaders to come down to pit road. for what would be the one stop they need on this run to get fuel that'll take them to the end. Lap number 100. Look at Cattell still to the outside. The 80 car almost just fenced it, trying to move to the outside as they're now over 1.7 seconds off the lead position. It is low on the outside in front of the 46 Mullis, but I mean, they're really starting to struggle. And what you have to look at here, Andy, is how long they've been on these tires. Restart came at lap number 43, so you're looking at a 26 lap run. We are still well over 26 to the end of this race, and 5 laps more will be there. So I think that's why these drivers are trying to go a little bit longer, split the run in half, because if they're this bad after 26 laps, who can imagine how bad they'd be if they dared pit with 36 to go at the end?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In some ways, I think you almost have to go a little long on this run just to make sure that you have good tires near the end of the race. So it's definitely an interesting strategy. Calling another car to keep an eye on. The 18 of Bobby Zielinski, VRS logos on that car, and that is a Quanda SimSport teammate to Keegan Leahy. Those two do work together, even though they're under different banners. So that 18 car has been moving through the field as Keegan has been picking up spots as well. So another car, the Joe Gibbs Racing Machine Interstate Batteries car of Bobby Zielinski, he's starting to pick up the pace as Keegan Leahy, he nearly opens it up to a 2-second gap with a huge flurry of cars on pit road.
Second place on the back is in. That includes Garrett Lowe, Jimmy Mullis at a 46, a 77 machine of Ashton Crowder also down. The 6 car is there. I think Ashton Crowder might have missed his pit stall. I'm not sure. He went to the left. Now he's going to be good and in. Almost looked like he thought it was further down to the pit lane, but these drivers are in. And now the ball is in the court of Keegan Leahy, who has been pulling away. Do you respond? Because they're instantly going to be much faster per lap. Keegan Leahy last time with a 39.7. I know it's not fair to compare his laps to everybody else, but even for him, that is about a second off of his best lap, so he's not falling off a ton. So all those cars are going to make up a second per lap for as long as the 62 stays out, and you can see them on the apron there. He has lapped them, so the concern about pitting first and being a lap down has come true for them, because at the moment, a lot of those cars now just got lapped by Keegan Leahy.
And second, third, and fourth, or who was second, third, and fourth, just came down pit road that last time by. The 62 of Keegan Leahy still stays out on the racetrack. We'll see if he decides to dive in here at the completion of lap number 72, and up the racetrack he goes through 3 and 4. So it looks like he's going to stay out at least one more lap, and indeed he will. Keegan Leahy will complete 72 on the racetrack. Ray Alfala was in second, and I say was because he's down on pit road. Bobby Zielinski going to stay out on the racing surface. Looks like the 66 of Tien going to come down onto pit road. Going to move Nick Shelton into the top 5 for the first time this evening through this cycle of pit stops. And going to put Brad Davies back up in the top 5 as Keegan Leahy continues to lead this thing down the back straightaway on the racetrack. We'll see if he decides to peel in this time.
Yeah, so shuffled up running order as you see a lot of the cars who just came down to the pit lane and have the fresh tires, making quick work of the cars out there on old tires. We're 4 wide with some lap to traffic in turns 3 to 4, as it looks like Zielinski is going to come down and to give up the number 2 position. Yes, he is. Chris Shearburn also in from 3rd. Shelton from 4th, also down to pit road. So Brad Davies will assume 2nd position. Still waiting on Leahy to pit, and wonder why it's taking so long. Of course, Randy, we mentioned when we were trying to think of what the strategy was earlier, that there's a reason these guys have race strategists, the crew chiefs, the teams, they're all formulated a plan. But I mean, the 62's biggest advantage was he had the gap. They weren't going to be able to draft off him at 2 seconds plus between he and the rest of the field. They're going to be within striking distance. Now, if he's still this good on the long run, it doesn't even matter, but they're going to be with him, if not in front of him, after he pits.
I actually really like this call by Keegan Leahy because he has the advantage of being able to run long. So he's opened himself up a couple of second gap. So going into this last segment of the race, we know he's going to be the best on older tires. And if he waits about 10 laps, he's going to have 10-lap newer tires than everyone, which means he'll probably be able to pretty much blitz the field getting towards the end of it. It's definitely a risk. He is going to lose the race lead after he comes off pit road. There's no question about that. But I don't think anyone's going to have anything for him if this race goes green to the end. He's going to be on newer tires and on tires that we know are better going to the end. He's hitting pit road right now.
So he comes down to pit at lap number 75. So 25 laps to go in this race. He just completed a 30-lap green flag run. So Leahy is a perfect idea. He knows exactly how those tires are going to handle. This should almost complete our service cycle, I think, with the exception of Davies, who has still stayed out. But Zach Novak will assume the race lead once all of this cycles through. Let's see how much of a disadvantage that the 62 machine is going to have to make up as he dips his 4 tires and exits the pit lane.
You've got about a half dozen cars or so that are still out on the racetrack that have yet to come down pit road. Brad Davies, Phil Diaz, you saw that battle on your screen. That'll end up being the battle for the lead, I do believe, as Christian Chalner scored in 4th the last time by. So Brad Davies comes across the stripe here. Phil Diaz now in 2nd place as Christian Chalner. Ryan Lowe will move to position number 4. Michael Guerrilla in position number 5. And then I think it kind of starts to cycle through a little bit. Timmy Hill will move up to position number 6. Look at this battle on your screen right here. 2 and 3 wide. These guys are wasting little time because this could end up being a battle for a top 5 position. You look at guys like Garrett Lowe, Jimmy Mullis in this battle, Zach Novak. It's time to go. These guys have been down on pit road. They need to put their money where their mouth is right now and try to make something happen as Brad Davies in the 88 and Phil Diaz continue to lead this thing ahead of this pack.
And right now it is the battle for 7th on back, but this is the battle for the race lead and what could be the race win. You saw Blendy back out and onto the racetrack that last time, slower off of the pit lane, try to get some momentum going, was that 62 machine of Keegan Leahy. So by staying out, he's back in the traffic, but he does have those fresh tires, Randy, and he's going to bring it around the inside line. And I wonder how much of a chance these drivers will stand as Keegan Leahy, who has been so good on the long run, now also has the best car on the short run.
And this is what I was talking about, why he didn't even really lose much time staying out. He's out here fighting for the net lead with 6 and 7 lap newer tires. Look at the 62 on the bottom. He just drives around all of them like they're standing still. The 6 and Novak trying to hold it outside. Brandon Hayes-Cattell, the only one that he's not really fighting with at the moment, but through 3 and 4, that's going to change. That G2 Esports car is going to absolutely be hooked up on the bottom. He is on rails right now, and there is nothing anyone can do about it. Move that 62 car back into the race lead. He didn't waste much time at all. That was almost anticlimactic.
That goes to show you that that team knew what they were doing. They were willing to go up the track position because he did lose the race lead, but he's not concerned. Cattell's going to pinch him down. It does not matter. Keegan Leahy clear at it. Turn number 2 leads out in the battle again that right now is for P7. But when Davies, Diaz, Lowe, Guerrilla, Challenger, and Hill have to come down to the pit lane, he will once again assume the race lead. It is now 21 laps away from trying to secure the race win here tonight at Michigan. Of course, this weekend you'll see the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series here at MIS as well. Let's take a look at what you can expect to see this weekend.
Everything happens so fast.
We're reading out of control.
It's a big mental game. Nothing ever goes to plan.
Pressure's on. Pressure's on to perform.
I'm gonna race you how you race me.
It's gonna get crazy.
Poyer wailing on Ryan Newman.
Punches thrown. Yeah, baby, yes!
If you're not tired, you didn't drive hard enough.
This time by 20 laps to go from the virtual Michigan International Speedway, and Keegan Leahy is stretching this one out. 2/10 better. Last lap alone. Seems like the virtual racing school G2 Esports entry, Tim, may just be home free in this one again. Still not official. And a reason those 5 cars now that have still yet to come down to the pit lane have stayed out is they're hoping to catch a yellow. Again, this is not a fuel strategy. They cannot make it the distance. They do need fuel if they want to make it to the end of the race. So they're going to run this thing dry, hoping to catch a lucky yellow flag.
But here's the thing. If these guys continue racing like they are right now, they're on the edge of out of control in this pack. Guys like Davies, Diaz, Lowe, Guerrilla, and Hill, the caution will come out and everybody will come down pit road for tires. So they're kind of hoping that that stays the same. And as I say that, Phil Diaz looks like he's coming down into pit road. So he's going to abandon that strategy. Brad Davies still stays out on the racetrack. Ryan Lowe comes in. The Jim Beaver Esports 15 Guerrilla comes in, as does Timmy Hill stays out on the racetrack. So it looks like 2 of them are going to stay out at least right now and hope that a caution flag comes out in these next couple laps.
So only 2 more, and you got to think they're at the maximum of that fuel window, and those tires got to be absolutely shot. They're running high 40-second lap times. That's 2 seconds off of our race leaders, which doesn't conventionally sound like a lot, but at this racetrack, the way the fall-off has been with this 2019 package, that is a world of difference. And Brad Davies has also hit his limit. Your race leader comes in at a turn number 4. It looks like Timmy Hill now in the 63 machine is the only driver still out. He is slow on the inside of the corner. He is also going to come down pit road for the final time, and it will all cycle through. Keegan Leahy in the number 62 car will go back to the race lead, just hoping that we stay incident-free for the next 17 laps, and it looks like it's his race to lose.
Yeah, he definitely would, I think, would prefer for this race to go green to the end with the speed that G2 Esports car has and the gap that he has, because there's nothing anyone else has for him. He will win this race pretty much guaranteed if that is the situation. But look at everyone else behind him. They've really single filed out from Brandon Hayes-Cattell on back. I think they're just trying to maintain that gap to the 62 any way they can, if there's somehow some way that G2 Esports car drops off. As they say that, Chris Overland, he works the inside of the 46 of Jimmy Mullis through 3 and 4, as they both are caught up right now behind the 74 of Taylor Hurst, who's been able to lurk his way up to a 3rd place running order at the moment. That 74 car, not talking much about him, but got himself in a great position at the moment as Mullis pushes the 16.
It's kind of incredible to look at the complexion of the top 10 right now, Tim. Only 2 cars running inside of the top 10 actually started there. Keegan Leahy, your pole sitter, who's leading this race, and in fact, Ray Alfala, who started 7th and is also in that exact same position on the racetrack right now. But huge moves for the likes of Taylor Hurst, who started in 30th position, runs in 3rd, and he's not even the biggest mover because Chris Overland behind him started in 32nd position and runs in 4th. So a lot of cars have used the draft, taken advantage of some of the restarts, some of the incidents that involved cars that were running towards the front of the field to make up a lot of track position, and a great turnaround for a handful of cars up front. In fact, if you go back to 19, only 3 cars in the top 19 started top 10.
And when you look at that 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place position, I think you mentioned it, there's 3 drivers that haven't had the best of seasons, looking to really turn the momentum around and try to get them at least what would be a top 20 run here in this 2019 championship point battle. But you look at Cattell, Hurst, and Overland really looking to turn the page here. A couple laps ago, Ray Alfala in the 21 jacked up that 30 of Blake Reynolds off a turn at number 2. That was almost a caution flag. They somehow got it back to single file, and Ray Alfala still working the back of that Team Dillon Esports number 30 of Blake Reynolds. Ray Alfala, one of the best runs that he's had of late in this season, and trying to at least turn it into a top 5 run. He gets the run off of corner number 2, but nowhere to put it, and they are closing in quickly on Garrett Lowe. This is about to be a battle for position number 6 as that battle for 2nd continues to heat up.
Yeah, Cattell once again under fire. Taylor Hurst trying to make some noise. Randy, remember when this race was a toss-up, but we really didn't have a clear favorite? Well, Keegan Leahy's still sitting 1.3 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. We're still seeing that draft play a major factor in these fights from second on back. Cattell can't get away. Hurst is on him. Overland's on him. These cars are probably going to fight all the way to the end of this race, but they just cannot make up the time to your race leader. He's at a completely different zip code. Check it out. Still a ton of action behind him, but man, has the 62 machine surprised us on this longest run of the night now.
Yeah, he really has with the tire strategy. No one saw it coming, especially because we were consistently going 10 laps yellow, 8 laps yellow, 15 laps yellow. Then we finally break out a long green flag run that started off of a restart on lap number 43, and it's been pretty much clean and green from there. And it doesn't look like we're going to be likely seeing an incident with so much of the field single file. I see the first side-by-side, 16th. Nicholas Shelton's in this fight. Ben Nelson's in this fight. Casey Tucker as well in the independent number 19. So a lot of cars here down towards your top 20. That's really your first side-by-side on the racetrack. And generally speaking, when the whole field gets single filed out, that's when you start seeing the races likely to go green, as Taylor Hurst is going to make a move for 2nd.
Taylor Hurst wants to try again, and The number 74 machine has got it. So moving into second position, Taylor Hurst, nicely done, dove it into the inside of 3, cleared him, but Cattell wound that car back up, and it looked like it was a done deal. Instead, Cattell is right back in front and clearing turn 1. So what a drive by Brandon Cattell to come right back on him. And if that doesn't send a message that he's not going to make it easy on him, I don't know what will, because that was an impressive drive by both the 74 to make the initial pass and for Cattell to come right back on him. I wonder if the 16th machine of Chris Overland wants to mix it up, or if he'll just sit back, let them eat away at their tires, and try to make a move late, because this time by, we are at 10 laps to go.
Overland tried to go to the outside when that move was made by Cattell, but just couldn't do it. Here comes the 74 back to the inside. Taylor Hurst trying to make it happen. Keep an eye on that spin, number 16 of Chris Overland, to see if he can get him a run and see if he can make a move on these two. Hurst sideways at a corner number 2, going to get that momentum to the outside of Cattell, and keep an eye on the 16. Hurst slams the door and Overland has to pull his foot out of it. Jimmy Mullis is going to close in on this one as well. This battle for second is getting intense in the final 10 laps of competition.
And that 16 bobbles a little bit as the 46 got on the bumper. This final portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Herculiner Truck Bed Liner. The tough comes easy, and nothing going to come easy out of this battle for second position on the back. 4 cars, toss a blanket over them. Cattell, Hurst, Overland, Mullis. You've even got Garrett Lowe lurking in the back. Blake Reynolds, Zach Novak. Here's where that draft comes into play, keeping everybody together. Not a lot of separation here. The gap between first and second is 3 seconds. You have the next 7 cars separated by less than 1.
Yeah, it's tight here from second on back, and these guys are about to get really aggressive with one another, because there are some point situations at play here. We know Jimmy Mullis is trying to get his way into the top 8. Garrett Lowe's trying to make himself safe, potentially going into Bristol. How about that 6 of Novak? He currently sits 8th, trying to work the 30 of Blake Reynolds going in towards turn 3. Novak currently on the outside looking in. He needs to get his way up into that safe point, into the top 8. Blake Reynolds already in the top 8 as well. So that 6 of Novak starting to move, as he's got that 21 of I'll follow behind him as well, as we watch this 3-car fight between the 80, the 74, and the 16.
And really hard to see who has an advantage over anybody. It used to be kind of Overland was the caboose in this fight, but I don't think Overland's worried about Taylor Hurst right now. He's just trying to stay in front of the 46 car behind him, and Mullis is getting pushed by Garrett Lowe. So everybody, I think, only working with one another for the benefit of eventually trying to pass somebody, but you can see these cars are still drafting with each other. The 74 machine of Hurst, a little bit higher that time, but the 2 is plastered on the back of Cattell. You can see that shot off.
We got a car around on the back straightaway. Flag. I don't know who it is, but the car spun down on the runoff. It is Nicholas Shelton in the 79 Clint Boyer racing car. What happened to him?
And this changes it all. A yellow with 6 laps to go. The replay shows that he had a little bit of help. It was a move that we had seen many a times tonight, Tim. He slid up in line. He did cut off the 42 machine of Dylan Duval, and Duval did not appreciate it, so he stayed in the gas. It loosened the 79 car up, and eventually he spun out off of the nose of Dylan Duval, and the 3-second race lead for Keegan Leahy is gone, and we are going to have a late race restart.
You could feel that sense of urgency really start to boil up, and not only in that battle for second, because you had drivers all the way back outside the top 10 getting into that conga line and trying to make something happen. It's a caution that obviously Keegan Leahy did not want to see. Had a big lead built, but now what do we see? Do we see drivers come down pit road? Do we see any strategy calls being made here? It's late in the race. We could have some overtime here. We could have some green-white checker finishes. Oh boy, this is going to get exciting.
We've seen a lot of overtime in the last couple of weeks since green-white checkers were added to the service, and let's see what the pit strategy call is going to be. I believe just because it's so late on the run that you are going to need to come in and get tires, and it looks like that is what everybody is doing. And I think also you just have to go with 4, Randy, and put your faith in not trying to get out in front of block. I think at some racetracks that works. Michigan's just way too wide to go for 2 tires or none. I think you go for 4, and you trust yourself and your racecraft to get the job done.
Yeah, I think you're right. You guys might see 1 car still out on the racetrack. That's the 51 of Eric J. Smith He's taking the wave around to get back on the lead lap. That's the only reason that 51 car is still out there. There might be some guys mid-pack who risk it for 2 tires, but I think 4 has to be the safe call here, as here comes the head of steam from everyone on the racetrack and on pit road, and Keegan Leahy will not lead the restart.
That was dead even at the line. Cattell had so much speed, and it does look like that the 80 car of Brandon Cattell has gone to the point. And what a drive for him. We've seen a handful of different times your race leader lose that battle off of the pit lane. Keegan Leahy, in theory, should have had the very best pit stall after qualifying on pole and to beat all the way down at the end of the pit lane. But it is Cattell who rockets to the race lead. Tim, I don't know, though, if being the control car for this restart has any better of a chance of winning the race than anybody else inside of the top 10.
We've seen some moves, especially at the start of the race, where we saw 2 and 3 wide, and we saw that inside line be really powerful. Maybe not necessarily get to the lead, but really have an influence on that inside. And with only having 3 laps or 2 laps to go here on these restart or restarts at the end of this race, it could be anybody's game. You look all the way back throughout your top 10, you've seen some drivers that might not have been here all night long, but now are going to have a shot at potentially a top 5, if not winning this race. But some of those familiar faces up in front, obviously Brendan Cattell's run up front most of the night. Keegan Leahy's run up there. Chris Overland's been hanging out around the top 10. Garrett Lowe is in the top 5. Jimmy Mullis is there as well. Zach Novak has been up and down like a yo-yo all night long. He's currently scored in position number 8. Ray Alfala hanging out in the top 10 as well. There's some drivers that really need good runs here, but as you mentioned, with the unpredictability of this rules package and on these restarts fanning out 3, 4, and potentially 5 wide, we could be in for a very exciting last few laps and last few restarts, potentially.
And when the lights go out on top of the pace car is big, because if they go out the next time by, it will be a 2-lap shootout, but it will not be overtime, so it would not be classified as a green white checkered, which means that it's a de facto 4th opportunity at it, because of course if we don't get to the white flag, then we would go into overtime, and Randy would get our normal 3 attempts at a green white checker to finish. So if lights go off this time, it's essentially 4 shots at it. We're not going into overtime. We would take 2 laps to go in the normal race, but it would essentially be the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, in effect, it's going to be the same thing, but man, this is going to make things hectic, I think, for all involved. Keegan Leahy had he was the car to beat. This was his race with the way things cycled out, but just not quite going the way he would have wanted. You're going to get the whole field out there on fresh tires. We've seen how racy this racetrack has been on the restarts. You can run the car up against the wall. You can run the car through the middle. You can run the car through that bottom line. You can see 3 and 4 wide on fresh tires with the field stacked up coming off the restarts. I wouldn't be surprised if we're 3 abreast going for the race win. This is a similar situation that we had out at Auto Club, and we ended up with a new winner in the championship when Eric J. Smith went to pit road. And with names like Brandon Hayes Cattell up there, also talked about some of those other drivers that we've seen who have sort of not had the greatest of seasons. You think Ashton Crowder, who's going to be rolling off from row 6. There's going to be some fireworks, I think, at the head of this field.
And you want to talk about the difference in drivers up front. You got, Keegan Leahy, who thought he was going to be able to race out to the race win in this one, take over the championship lead. The 62 car is looking for his 3rd. And Brandon Cattell, your race leader, it's an end of the longest line penalty. Your race leader is having some mechanical issues, and that technical problem is going to give the 80 car an end of the longest line penalty. All of a sudden now, Tim, Chris Overland is on the inside of the front row looking for a 1st ever win.
Well, this is going to be big for Chris Overland, the biggest restart of his sim racing career, but he'll have Keegan Leahy to the outside, and Leahy is a driver that has dominated here in the recent laps in the second half. He's got a whole host of hungry drivers behind him. I better believe that James Gutta and the guys at Wood Brothers are up on the chip right now. We'll see what happens over these last few laps.
Pace card added in, just 2 laps left to go on the scoring pylon as we go back green at Michigan. It is an unofficial green-white checkered finish, this time by 98 laps down, 2 laps to go. It's Chris Overland into turn number 1, Keegan Leahy on the outside. They are only side by side for the race lead, but watch the row behind them as they come out at 2. How many cars are going to make a dog? Watch the 28 a low, watch 46 a Mullis. It's a spinach on the outside to Leahy as Overland blocks the inside.
Down the back straightaway and in towards 3 and 4. Most of the field 2 abreast, couple 3 wide near the back, but up the inside goes the 16 of Chris Overland through 3 and 4. Will they make it to the white flag, and will we finish within 100 laps? They come off of turn 4. Everyone's still straight. White flag waving at the starter stand, and we are going to do this in regulation. The 62 leads into 1.
He's got a small advantage. The 46 of Mullis is pushing him. The 16 of Overland still on the inside, but no support. He gets sideways. Overland slides up and turns Keegan Leahy. He'll reckon it's a big crash out of turn 2, but who can pick up the pieces down the back straightaway? It's a drag race with a handful of cars trying to make it to the end, blocking all the way to the inside as here comes the 30 of Blake Reynolds down on the inside of the 28 of Garrett Lowe. Side by side. Overland watching from 3rd, tries to find a way through. He'll go to the middle line to the outside, and in a 3-wide finish, it is Garrett Lowe, winner at Michigan.
What a way to pick up your first win. Garrett Lowe going to victory lane. Overland did everything that he could to try to pick up that victory, but falling just a little bit short. And Blake Reynolds, what about the run that he had to position number 3? And boys, Ray Alfala finished in the top 5 tonight as well, but Taylor Hurst was doing flips down the back straightaway, and a ton of drivers that were up front that were going to have good nights. It ended on the last lap, but Garrett Lowe, what a way to win your first race. He'll come up and, oh, by the way, this should lock himself into the playoffs with that playoff cutoff with the points that he has. We'll find that out in the post-race show, but the Renegades driver going to celebrate here on the front straightaway.
And a well-deserved one as he came into this evening 3rd in the championship. He celebrates his first career win in the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. And Randy, not only that, but in that 3-wide photo finish, Garrett Lowe, Chris Overland, and Blake Reynolds, all 3 of those drivers were fighting for their first ever wins, and the margins of victory were 33 1/1000ths back to Overland and 38 1/1000ths back to Reynolds. They were all that close. Lowe, though, the only one of them that picks up that first ever checkered flag.
And I think one of the drivers that has to be really, really sad at the moment is that 62 of Keegan Leahy. He was in a position to lock himself in to that top 8 going into that final round at Bristol. Instead, he gets into contact. He's going to finish well down the running order in 34th, and he will likely not be safe going into that final race. I also have to say there may be questions with the blocking from the 28 on that final lap going into turn 3. He ran that 30 car all the way below that yellow line and all the way down in the runoff. So hard racing up there for drivers looking for their first win, and heartbreak and dreams met for some here tonight at the end of Michigan.
And it'll take a long time to pick up the pieces. Let's take a look top to bottom at our unofficial race results tonight from MIS. Garrett Lowe is your race winner. Again, 33 1/1000ths over Chris Overland, 39 1/1000ths over Blake Reynolds for 2nd and 3rd position. Corey Vincent ends up 4th. Ray Alfala rounds out your top 5. We'll be trackside chatting with all of them in just a little while. It was a great night overall for Jarl Tien, who ends up in P6. Michael Conti, 7th. Ryan Luza looked like he was going to lose out a ton to Leahy in this race. He somehow finishes in 8th position with Chris Shearburn behind in 9th. And Bobby Zelensky rounds out the top 10.
Through all the mess in behind, Dylan Duvall comes home with position number 11. Kane Cook in 12th. Casey Kerwin 13th. Brian Schoenberg 14th with Ben Nelson 15th. Christian Chalner in 16th. Jake Nichols in 17th. Ashton Crowder comes home 18th. Phil Diaz in 19th. And completing your top 20, it's the 5 of Matt Busa.
In the 30th spot, you're going to have Logan Kress in 30th. 31st. Oops, sorry about that. Brad Davies in 32nd, Jimmy Mullis 33rd, Keegan Leahy 34th, Michael Guest 35th, Nathan Lyon 36th with Casey Tucker in Taylor Hurst rounding out the rest of the field.
It's a complete look top to bottom at your RaceSpotTV, and we'll preface it because of all the chaos on the last lap, but unofficial race results from MIS. Let's take a look again at that last lap and relive this one, as there was all the contact, the big incident in turn number 2. It took Keegan Leahy out of this race, ends up finishing back in 34th position. Here's the battle for the race lead. You'll see the contact on the inside line. It's amongst your race leaders right here. The 16's trying to block. He gets loose, pushes up, tags the 62, and it's on from there. Everybody else wrecking at it too. It's a 50-50 shot if you make it through that chaos or not. But then watch this battle for the race win, Tim, as the 30 car tried to go low, got blocked all the way to the inside by Garrett Lowe, and they both had a terrible entry into turn 3. They're both really tight here off of 4. You'll see Chris Overland. There's the 16. I thought he had it. He had the big run. Look to the inside, look to the outside, and in a 3-wide photo finish, somehow Garrett Lowe kept the car wide enough to hang on.
Yeah, Garrett Lowe kind of goes to the inside a little bit to try to prevent that run that Chris Overland had, and then Overland went back out to the outside. But look at Chris Overland here, gets that little shot in the shorts there, and just the slightest little bit in sideways, and at that point, Chris Overland has no control of the race car. You kind of feel for Keegan Leahy on that outside line. I know he was a little bit upset with the 16 car, but look at this 30 car of Blake Reynolds to the inside. There he is, all the way down below that white line, and comes back up onto the speedway. And then Chris Overland tries to go in the middle, nowhere to go, coming out of turn number 4. And man, oh man, what a finish. Those 3 drivers, as you mentioned, Evan, tried to win their first race in the series. Garrett Lowe unofficially out here with that victory, but man, Chris Overland tried everything that he could. I know he's been involved in the series for a long while. His day is going to come, but man, Chris Overland gave it a go, gave it an effort.
Let's talk to the drivers who were a part of that one, and to go down trackside with the driver of the number 28 machine. Garrett Lowe is your race winner tonight at Michigan International Speedway. First career win in the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Garrett, congratulations, man. This race changed with that yellow flag with 6 laps to go. Just talk us through that 2-lap to go restart.
Yeah, well, we really didn't want to see that caution. We were wanting it to go green because we thought we had a shot at the at second there. We were going to be able to get him on the long run, but we got the caution, and out of just good pit stop, got a line in 5th, and then I believe someone got put to the back for a connection issue, and that moved us up into 3rd, and just hung on the bottom there as long as we could. Got the push. And then I guess he got loose in the middle of 1 and 2 and just took out a couple cars. And I just cut to the bottom as soon as that happened. So it was pretty close. And then the finish, I mean, what a finish. That was incredible.
I guess if you're going to get your first checkered flag, you might as well make it a memorable one. It's no fun winning by 3 or 4 seconds. So you end up 3 wide, coming to the start-finish line. Obviously, you wanted to protect the inside line, and there was the big move by Blake Reynolds there. Basically, for the outside ball, down to the apron on you. You're able to hold top, but he's still on your inside. You've got Overland coming. Were you more so, I guess, focused on those cars or your line? Because it looks like you were using the rear-view mirror for most of that exchange in 3 and 4.
Yeah, the spotter was all over the radio those last 2 laps. Michael does a great job up on top of the spotter stand for me, guiding me and telling me where I need to be. And he said those 2 were coming, and obviously we knew that Blake was on our inside. And then he said, run coming behind you, block middle, and that was the winning call right there for sure.
Obviously, this changes the championship picture. We thought Keegan Leahy was going to be our new championship leader because Luza wasn't having a good night. Leahy wrecks out in that incident. Luza gets a top 10, but we can no longer say that you're the highest running driver in the championship standings without a win, because you secured that this evening, even without having to broke it into victory lane this year until now. It's still been a great year for you guys. You came into tonight in 3rd. Maybe a mathematical lock now onto the playoffs, which I think will certainly calm your nerves going into Bristol.
Yeah, for sure. That was kind of the goal tonight. Was we had a little bit of a gap where we had some room to play with, but we wanted to make sure that going into Bristol we could relax a little bit and not have to worry about it too much. I think we definitely accomplished that tonight, and we'll have to head to Bristol with our heads a little bit higher this week and see what we can do there and maybe try to knock off another win.
We look forward to seeing that. 1 race left to go before the regular season ends. Did we get playoff racing? Do you feel like you guys are in a position, having figured out these cars now to this point, that you're going to be able to make a real run at the championship?
Yeah, I think we have. I think we've gotten to a point right now where we're pretty happy with what we have and the knowledge we've gained so far with this build and this package. I think we still have a little bit of work to do to catch up with some people, specifically with these bigger racetracks. But it paid off today with what we had, so we'll take that and move forward for the rest of the season.
I know it's a long road just to even get to this series, and when you reach this top level of sim racing, there isn't a guarantee that you are going to find victory lane. So for you and the Renegades team, I know this must mean a lot for you. Sponsors, shout-outs, all of those good folks. Who has led you to this point where you're finally a Peak Series winner?
Yeah, it's everybody at Renegades, HyperX, my guys at 5-Star Racing, Michael for spotting, Brian, who couldn't be crew chief tonight, so we had Trent fill in, but he did a great job too. Nick Doucette for the awesome paint scheme. And the guys over the team at Cody Bias, Dylan Duvall, Justin Bolton, and Ryan Luza as well over here at 5-Star Racing.
We appreciate your time. Post-race, get to celebrate. And Garrett, congratulations.
Thank you, guys. Hope the fans enjoyed the broadcast. I think it's going to be a pretty memorable one, and you guys do a great job bringing it to us every week.
Well, it was a 3-wide finish, made our job easy. Garrett Lowe, your race winner at MIS, first career win in the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. He's got winner checked off. Next up for him on the docket is champion. He's one of the top drivers headed into the postseason. And you know that the flip side of this, a driver that was so very close to him, also in the same boat, Chris Overland, with that huge run at a turn 4, just 3/100ths of a second away from taking the checkered flag. He's P2 tonight. You're with him.
Well, Chris Overland, I thought we were going to get a winning interview out of you, but let's talk about that last couple of laps. You inherit the lead on that restart, and then all heck broke loose. Walk us through what you saw out of the 16 car.
Yeah, all heck broke loose, and the 16 car broke loose in front of the field. Want to apologize for Keegan. I mean, clearly the best car. I mean, we set up the car tight, and I made no adjustments on that pit stop. That getting sideways like that, I don't know what happened yet. I'm gonna have to look at it, but man, I'm not so upset about second. You know, it's a Cinderella story. If the shoe don't fit, we'll get it in another race. I was checking my mirror when we came off 2, trying to see who had the run, and I looked back up, and 2 cars are on the apron, and I'm like, we still got a shot at this. So I kept my foot in it, and we did what we could, but just a couple feet short, and another second place finish for us. So I'll take it. You know, you can't be mad.
After the season that you've had this year, how relieving is this runner-up finish to really turn some momentum around for this team?
It is really relieving. We had a fantastic car, thanks to Jarl and everybody at Slip Angle and NX. We prepared really well for this week, and Cattell did a great job. I hate it for him. But you know, we'll take it on to the next week. We'll just try to string some more good runs together. I know we're gonna have a good car for Indianapolis. Wood Brothers is really helping us out. So want to thank them. Thanks Spin, everybody over there. I can barely talk, man. I'm hyped. That was crazy.
You've been in this series for a long while. You mentioned that next race. We head to Bristol. We haven't seen a whole lot of Bristol races here in this series. What are you expecting as a driver heading in to what will be that playoff cutoff with everybody fighting for those playoff positions up front, you fighting for a victory? What do fans expect here in a couple weeks?
It's going to be hard to top Michigan. This is a really fun race, but I think Bristol's got something for it. I think you're going to see a lot of cars running different grooves. You're going to see a lot of side-by-side action, and with side-by-side action leads to wrecks, leads to playoff implications. I mean, everything is going to happen at Bristol, and you guys better tune in.
You mentioned those teammates, you mentioned those marketing partners. Anybody else you want to say hello to, or any final thoughts before we close off a second-place run here at Michigan?
Well, final thoughts for the people watching at home. This is not easy. It is not easy at all. First chance at winning in 105 starts, and I got dead sideways in front of the whole field. So, I mean, it took quite a bit of skill to run this race, and I think everybody involved will vouch for me there. So, thanks for watching. Thanks for having me. Hope to be here soon.
There you go. There's Chris Overland finishing in position number 2. Randy was so close to this number 16 team, but coming home in position number 2. Great to see the veteran of this series have a great run. I believe you've caught up with our third-place finisher and a guy that was down there looking for that victory, the 30 of Blake Reynolds.
Yeah, if it was close for Overland for the win, it was close for Reynolds for second. 5 thousandths of a second separated Overland and Blake Reynolds. And Blake, you can't say you left anything on the table. You ran that thing about 4 lanes into the infield trying to get around that 28 car, but the bottom line just couldn't stick.
Yeah, man. I couldn't believe that wreck happened in front of me. I figured everyone made adjustments on that last pit stop for the green-white checkered, and to me it looked like the 16 bottomed out and got loose. I saw sparks from under his car. I kept in the gas, and I saw Garrett there, and I went low, and he blocked, and I went even lower, and yeah, he wasn't being fazed by it. So awkward angle into 3, and then I just tried to gas it up into the line, and just got outran by Overland there, but P3 I'm happy with.
And for you, you were part of those lead fights for a long time. We were watching you battling with Cattell, and once we got to about 40 laps to go, starting talking about the last round of pit stops, suddenly you had that charging 62 come through and pretty much blitz all you guys. Were you expecting anyone to have the sort of car to be able to run away from you like the 62 Leahy was able to do? I
figured Keegan would. You know, I'm pretty sure he won this race last year, or was extremely fast. So I was a little worried about him coming into this race, but I didn't think anybody would pull away. I figured he'd just sit about a second or so in front of the field, but no, man, he pulled away like 4 seconds there. And as for that battle with Cattell, it was really fun. It was almost like we were throwing sliders, you know?
That's exactly
like,
what I said during the fight.
Yeah, it was just a lot of fun. Sucks what happened to Cattell. I'm sure he'll bounce back, but yeah. And then, you know, I didn't want to see that caution, but it turned out to benefit me.
And I believe going into this last race at Bristol, you're going to be locked into the top 8, as it's looking like it's going to be about a 44-point gap between yourself and the current. Actually, no, I take that back. It's a 47-point gap between yourself and the 8th place running man, as I believe, yes, my math is good, so that will lock you in. How much does that take off in terms of pressure? Because I know that this last race of the regular season, Bristol, it's really the wild card track probably on the season, probably even more so than the Charlotte Roval, to be entirely honest. We've not seen it in peak competition in a long time. How do you think the 250 lap race there is going to go, and how does it feel being able to go in there knowing you can at least have some fun around the half mile iconic oval there in Bristol?
Yeah, I was worried because I knew if I wrecked out here or had like a P25 or up, I was going to be real worried going into that race, and I was just going to have a third eye on my forehead, just trying to look for the crash and just try and stay ahead of myself there. But yeah, I don't know. Like you said, I'll go in there and have some fun, you know, throw some sliders, you know. I know it's not encouraged to run people in the fence, but, you know, it's Bristol, baby. Come on.
It is indeed Bristol, baby, that we have coming up in a couple of weeks' time. And Blake, congratulations to you on an amazing 3rd place run. You were a ton of fun to watch all night, and especially on that final 2-mile sprint to the finish. Before we let you go, who gets it done for everyone on that number 30 at Team Dillon Esports?
Well, the setup this week was fantastic. I came from all the way in the back, and it feels like I usually do. Still got to work on our Q trim, but Houston Hammer and Dustin Linger, man, best in the business. And I'm glad I can get these results to show for it. And then everyone at Team Dillon with our partners Beneath Apparel, Digital Eye, StockX, Elevate, Go Share, and then Austin Dillon, man, for picking me up.
So there he was, the driver of the number 30, Blake Reynolds, comes home in 3rd tonight, very close to making a 2nd place finish. We've already talked to a Renegades car, and we've already talked to a Wood Brothers car. We get to talk to another Renegades car, the number 27 of Corey Vincent. Tim Terry stood by with him.
Well, Corey Vincent probably had one of the most exciting 2-lap dashes to the finish because, Corey, there were cars crashing to the left, to the right, to the front. What did you see out of the windshield in those final 2 laps?
Yeah, that was insane. What a race there at the end. First off, congrats to Garrett Lowe on the win. Renegades teammate. Happy to see that Renegades car get a win. But yeah, that was crazy for us. I think every wreck, almost every wreck during the race happened, you know, around us or in front of us, and we missed them all. And you know, our Renegades Ford Mustang was fast. I think we had a top 10 car. But yeah, that wreck at the end helped us get that top 5. So yeah, thanks to the guys at ERG, Esports Racing Group, for all that help. And yeah, happy to get another solid finish. Moved up to 12th in the points. Things are looking good.
This package looks fun to watch up here, but as a driver, how fun is this package to drive at Michigan?
It's fun, but it's nerve-wracking as well. You know, you're running so close to everybody, so tight, 3 wide, 4 wide. You know, it's fun, but you don't want to wreck. You know, so it can drive your nerves up a bit.
So looking at the points, as you mentioned, 12th place in points, I think it's 47 points out, so not going to be able to make the playoffs here this season. So what is your mindset going forward in those final few races of this 2019 season?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. We, you know, not going to make the playoffs this year, but, you know, we'll still, you know, keep trying our best. You know, we love to finish the season off in the top 10, you know, 9th or 10th, if possible. You know, we've been pretty fast lately, so I think it's possible and we can do it. We just have to keep staying clean in these races and see what we can do at the end of the season.
We're going short track racing in a couple of weeks' time. What do you got for these boys at Bristol? Can we whip off our first win of the year?
Not too sure. Haven't ran Bristol in a long time. I'm sure it's going to be exciting. It'll be you know, some fun racing, but that's another race again that I just want to make it out clean. You know, another solid finish, and I would be happy.
Who do you got in this race car that helps you get to the racetrack each week, marketing partners, and who's on the team that helps you get this car fast each week?
Yeah, big thanks to Renegades, Alienware. Again, congrats to Garrett on the win. Thanks to the guys at eSports Racing Group for all that help and time they put in and laps that they run with me and you know, help prepare these cars for the race. And yeah, it was an exciting show. Hopefully everybody enjoyed it, and we'll see y'all at Bristol.
There's Corey Vincent, great 4th place effort here this evening. And Randy, there's another driver that you've caught up with that had a wild finish, and it's finally great to see this guy back in the top 5. Your reigning champion, Ray Alfalas, caught up with Randy.
13 races is what it took for Ray to get himself a top 5 this season. And Ray, there's no way to really miss it or not talk about it whatsoever. You guys at Wood Brothers and at Slip Angle, it's just not been your season whatsoever. But you guys come out swinging here, 13th race of the series. Both you and Chris, absolutely fantastic cars tonight. Both of you in the top 5. What did you guys finally hit on that got both of you so quick?
Thanks, man. I missed you guys. Haven't seen you in almost a year. But yeah, good run. 2nd and 5th for Wood Brothers cars tonight. And I don't think we necessarily hit on anything. We just we were pretty fast at Pocono and we got taken out. And that's kind of been the season. You know, we've had pretty fast cars sometimes and gotten taken out, and then we've also been slow and gotten taken out. So you know, it seems like we've gotten short end of the stick pretty much wherever we run, whether it's up front or mid pack. So you know, it was just nice to be up front and controlling the race a little bit. And then we had a little bit of an issue there with Brandon, our teammate, into turn 3, and then we just kind of fell back to 10th, had a little bit of damage, and we couldn't quite get back to the front. But then, you know, it got wild at the end with that caution, and all hell broke loose on the last lap.
And for you, we're talking about going to Bristol in the next race, a couple weeks out. And I think you're one of the few drivers in the running order that probably would have ran Bristol last time it was in peak competition, however many years it's been. What do you think we're going to see as we head out to the iconic half-mile racetrack we've not seen for such a long time on the eNASCAR scene?
Yeah, I think last time I ran there was 2011, got 4th. Obviously, it's quite a bit different than it used to be as far as, you know, the cars and the downforce and all that. But I'm excited for it. I think it's maybe our best shot at winning. You know, the drivers have much more control over there. You know, the whole season is, with the new package, it's kind of been really, you know, determined by how good of a car you had. You know, it's not that tonight I drove better. I don't think we just had a really fast car, so we were able to be up front. So I think Bristol is our last really good chance at winning. So, you know, we'll go there and try to put Virtual Racing School and spin in victory lane.
And then one last question for you. Of course, the way this championship has gone, out of championship contention, but of course you having more championships in this series than anybody, who are you looking at as a potential favorite from your expert's eye?
Well, I think Keegan is the favorite for sure right now. He, you know, the whole pack was just kind of together, and he was out there like 4 seconds out of the field. But if we get a late caution in Miami, you know, anything can happen. So that'll be interesting. I think for the first time in a while, because of the way these cars drive, we really don't know at all who's going to be contending. But I think Keegan has a little bit of an edge, and you know, it'd be nice to have him or Bob if we can't get there, have him or Bobby up there with the Virtual Racing School colors.
Well, thanks for joining us, Ray, and it's great that we at least get to talk to you at least once this season. We got that in the book. The Ray Alfala interview checkmark and top 5 is officially covered for 2019. And before we let you go, who gets it done not only for yourself, but everyone involved with that number 21 Wood Brothers Ford?
Yeah, thanks to NASCAR and PEAK for putting this together. The series has grown a lot. Big thanks to NBC, last week for having us on TV. That was really cool. And Wood Brothers and Spin Scooters, and of course Virtual Racing School. Go on there. There's a lot of members use the service, and go on there if you want to improve your driving and be coached by a bunch of really good drivers.
So there he was. Ray Alfala comes home with a season's best 5th place finish tonight. Evan.
Well, big thanks, as always, for our top 5 finishers for giving us some time post-race to chat with them. It's Garrett Lowe, Chris Overland, Blake Reynolds, Corey Vincent, and Ray Alfala tonight at Randy. This looked like it was going to be a walk in the park at the end for Keegan Leahy. It's a huge swing into points. And let's take a look at what the championship standings look like coming out of this evening. There is your updated lines, and 3 drivers are now locked in. We are certain that Ryan Luza, Garrett Lowe, and Blake Reynolds will be racing, but it gets more interesting from there because Corey Vincent on back below that red line have now been mathematically eliminated, so there is a 3-car bubble. Casey Kerwin, 37 points, that's a lot. Christian Challenger, 39. It's a lot. It would need to be basically a top 2 for those cars in bottom positions for the cars in front of them to have any hope. But Nick Ottinger, Zach Novak, 7 points. You can lose that many spots at a single restart at Bristol.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. But for Kerwin and Challenger, it's uphill battles from here. They need a lot of cars to have bad finishes out there at Bristol, because remember, they not only have to beat one car. It's not that they just need to make up 30 points of what they need on Ottinger. They need to have one of those other cars have a bad night of racing as well. So they need at least 2 people minimum to have a terrible night of racing, and it has to be one of those drivers, be it Zielinski, Leahy, Conti, Mullis, or Novak. So one of those 5 drivers has to have a bad night, as well as the current 9th place point sitter of Nick Ottinger, for the likes of Kerwin to Challenger to have any hope. And I'm going to be honest, I don't see that many of those cars having bad nights. I think it's likely if anyone gets bumped into the top 8 or if anyone gets bumped out, it's going to be Ottinger bumping one of those 6 drivers. I don't think Kerwin and Challenger, even though they mathematically have a chance, I don't think they realistically have one.
And I don't think both of them could get it either, because if you add the 8 points on the Mullis, who's 7th, again, you would need 2 to drop out. You're looking at 45 back to Kerwin and then 47 back to Challenger. So maybe only 1, but again, Ottinger, Novak certainly going to be the one to watch for, and I'm certain that when we get to Bristol, we are going to be highlighting those 2 drivers as the night goes on. Tim, of course, though, for people who don't want to miss out on eNASCAR action, more action this week, this Thursday night, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, right back here on RaceSpotTV and the iRacing Esports Network. You can catch the eNASCAR Ignite Series. That will be fun, but we look forward, of course, for the PEAK Series to Bristol in 2 weeks' time for the last race of the regular season.
Yeah, and I'm a short track guy. I'm really looking forward to Bristol coming up, and then you got those 4 unique racetracks in the playoffs. But as you guys mentioned, I think it's Zach Novak that controls his own destiny. He kind of did this evening as well, and you want to tie that in with the Ignite Series after he ran so well up to the top of that series last year. But Zach Novak didn't run well early in this race, and realistically, when you look at it at the end of the day, finished 21st, but Nick Ottinger finished in 29th, enough to swing that to Zach Novak's way. But if he has a good night at Bristol, he comes out with a playoff position. If he doesn't have a good night, he doesn't come out with a playoff position. Same deal with Jimmy Mullis. Those other few drivers are, as Randy said, mathematically still in contention of losing a spot, but probably safe realistic-wise. So I think it comes down to those 3 that are on the bubble, and with Bristol, any short track, anything can happen, especially under the lights. This one is going to be exciting. I can't wait for that August 20th date when we go racing on the high banks of Bristol.
Yeah, you think tonight was fun, and we've had a lot of fun for the opening 13 weeks of this championship. It is only going to get more exciting from here. That does it, though, for us tonight. Round number 13 falls into our rear view mirror. I want to thank all of the people who make these broadcasts possible. For our director, Hugo Louise, for Alex Horn on the cameras tonight, to Andy Werner and Simon Grossman for the broadcast graphics, and for your broadcast team tonight. For Tim Terra, Randy Cheneth, and Evan Pasoko, I want to thank you for tuning in. Go to eNASCAR.com to stay up to date, and we will catch you in 2 weeks' time. That one on Tuesday, August the 20th, for the regular season finale at Bristol Motor Speedway. That race and every race of the 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series can be found right here on RaceSpotTV and the iRacing Esports Network. Until next time, good night from Michigan, where Garrett Lowe's a first-time winner.